Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Monster Hunter World Iceborne live stream. We're back on the Xbox. We had 2 days in a row on the PC, so let's have a day on the Xbox, and maybe tomorrow we'll do the PlayStation 4 as well. There's not really anything to work on, especially on this character. I've got tons of work done on this character. So tonight especially, I would like to focus on having a fun conversation, but also I'm going to focus on helping whoever wants help, maybe with the story. Maybe they have a boring quest that they need to grind. We'll have to see who joins the quest and what they post. So tonight especially, I'll be helping other people because I basically have everything on the Xbox that I could probably ever need. We could work on builds, but every time I do builds, it's really hard actually to read the comment section. And since this is chat time, this is a chat time stream, I'm going to be focusing, of course, especially on the comment section to answer any of your questions. It could be about Monster Hunter, or it could be about other things as well. Yeah, I just like to talk, so I'm here to talk with you guys. How's it going, Josh? How's it going, Fabled Myth? He says, what's up, guys? How's it going, Mez? I do like streaming late, whatever other thing I'm working on. So the late night streams have become like my favorite stream time. It's perfect because all the kids are... Jason says he's back. Welcome back, Jason. All right, I think we've had enough of this screen. How do I feel about Master Rank Arch-Tempers? Personally, not a fan. I hated how Arch-Tempers were handled in the base game. A lot of people, I think, want to feel hype for this game right now. They want to feel hype for Master Rank Kolv. They want to feel hype for Master Rank Arch-Tempered Namiel. I think that Capcom could pull out all the stops, and it could be very hype-worthy. Or it could just be exactly what we predicted it to be. So we're just going to have to find out. Hopefully, it is very hype-worthy. We'll just have to find out, though. I guess I'm a little cynical. It's in my nature to be a little skeptic, a little cynical. But most of all, I'm that way because they seem to follow a pretty set pattern. So I don't know. I'd just be surprised if they really went crazy and released something just mind-blowing with a returning monster from high rank and basically just a monster you've already fought, but harder. Fitz says, I love the late night streams. It helps pass the time during the night shift. Cool. Cave Data says, you sound like you always have a mouthful of annoyingly expensive nuts. That's right. Josh says, is there an easy way to get critical jewels? Not really. When it comes to decoration farming, my approach to it at this point is to not really think about it. I would focus more on getting the right pieces of armor together and not really worrying about your decorations. You will eventually unlock the decorations you need. It just takes a little bit of time. But if you focus on it and farm it, you're going to get bored and you're going to get burnt out. Teacher says, are you hyped for Kolv? No, not really. We'll find out. When she comes out, if the weapon system is really cool and the fight's really tough, I'm going to like it. But if it's just kind of like this fight you could win with fortitude and she's okay, and, it's like 2 new moves, which is probably what we're getting. And then probably a new weapon system that maybe matches the Sophagiva and Raging Brachydios weapons. If that's what we're getting, you could pass more time playing Monster Hunter, basically. At this point, I think I'm ready for their next title. You know what I mean? I'm ready for Monster Hunter Universe. How about you guys? Can you only join if you play on Xbox? That's right. Zachariah says, Arch-Tempers just felt like artificial difficulty. Right, that term gets passed around a lot. So what he means by that, guys, is basically the monster hits harder and has more health. And that's mostly it. Jason says, ultimately, RNG determines your outcome for decorations. Just work with what you got. I'm a nuts guy, too. I made this account just for this. Monster Hunter World doesn't have cross-platform, sadly, so yeah, you have to be on Xbox. Josh says, do you have a greatsword build for Raging Brachy? I think I have it. Is this it? This is it. This is the Raging Brachy build. Golden Loon Helm, huh? Oh, because I went with Divine Blessing Secret. So we have Divine Blessing Secret, we got Health Boost, and then we have Crit Eye, Crit Boost, Weakness Exploit, Agitator for damage skills. We have Earplugs 5, which is really nice on the Greatsword because it means you can't get interrupted by Roar in the middle of TCS. And, of course, we have 3 levels of focus. Okay, so this is a defense-oriented build, but it's also going to do lots of damage. I'll show you. We'll use it tonight. How about that? King says, I'm in your session. Yay! You guys can post whatever you want to post, and I will join you guys. I will always check to see if you guys have posted something, and I will join whatever you guys post, okay? TGC can't be hyped for Kolv. He kind of fought her at least 1,000 times in base game. Exactly. I fought her a lot. If she's not real different from the base game, it's, It's going to be business as usual for me. And then if you take her weapons and you just basically upgrade them to do more damage, if that's how it works, it's they're always doing power creep weapons. It's the same old, same old. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's see if under events. I think it's under events. We'll start out with the extreme behemoth. And it's so frustrating. It feels like we've been living under this coronavirus pandemic forever, doesn't it? It feels like it's lasted so long. It's just destroying this year, isn't it? The whole year's being taken up by it. It's really quite a pity. Bunch of people dying. Yeah, it's really sad. Why would you not change the ruinous van braces and Garuga greaves for bracky pieces? Wait. There might be a reason for it. Maybe it's because I couldn't afford Agitator Secret. That's probably it. So I think what you just said was something I actually tried. I put this together like 4 days ago or 5 days ago. I'm pretty sure I couldn't afford the Agitator Secret, and I ended up doing this instead because it fit just right. I'm not going to question it. It's working well. Extremith is the best fight in the game. That's right. We'll have a quick meal. I'll go ahead and have the safeguard. What do you think about Raging Brachydios and Furious Raging shake to the meta again? Yeah, they're cool. Like I said, I think I'm ready for Monster Hunter Universe. I'm ready for the next game. I figured this game out. They release small increments of damage with the weapons. I'm waiting for a Latreon. Okay, so Latreon I'm hyped for. Not too hyped for I'm not too hyped for the Arch-Tempered monsters. If they're real tough, I will actually be hyped for them. And then when it comes to Master Rank Cove, I just feel more like she's a time filler, you know what I mean? They're like, we got to give them something. Okay, Master Rank Cove. That'll keep them busy for like 2 weeks, right? Raging Brachy's Greatsword is gorgeous. It looks okay. Who do we have? We have Odin, Abyssal, and Lara? Crash says, so coming to PC soon? So tonight's live stream is chat time. This is your opportunity to ask me anything you want to ask. We could talk about anything you want to talk about. Does not have to be Monster Hunter. In fact, I think it's a lot of fun when we don't talk about Monster Hunter. That's one of the reasons why we do chat time. So you guys are welcome to start any conversation or talk about something going on in your life, maybe something crazy that happened. We can discuss some sensitive topics, which is always fun. And that is the point of chat time. Will they ever buff the Lance? They will probably never buff the Lance until we make a big stink about it. Mikello says, Monster Hunter Universe, all monsters in all generations with the Hunter doing a world tour. Donald says, I'm excited to use my gold Cove weapons again. I don't think Behemoth will be in Master Rank. Raphael says, I don't think they will be tough at all. That's right. I thought you were going to play with the hammer. Was I going to play with the hammer? Who said that? I never said I was going to play with the hammer. For how long are you going to be streaming on Xbox? Because it's like midnight for me. I will be streaming for exactly 10 minutes. I've been chainsawed in the leg. Ouch. Have you ever seen a penguin skeleton? They're avian giraffes. Oh, really? To me, arch-tempered monsters are just like content fillers. A little bit, yeah. When do you think they'll make the Immortal Reactor craftable? In Title Update 4. Mello says TGC face reveal. Man, everyone wants face reveal. People want face reveal over on my Pokemon card channel, and people want face reveal over here too. Everyone's like, what do you look like? Mel says, have they given you the stimulus package? I think I heard something about it. No, my wife and I have not received any checks. Anil says, the other day you mentioned China's economy not reaching the U? I don't know what you meant by that. Reaching the US's? What? Jojo says, I think it's better to chat with older people, better quality conversation. That's right. All the kids are in bed right now. It's late night. Dago says, do you invest in stocks? Got some tips. What's a good investment? Like some ETFs. I have done some stock investing. I've heard if you want to do really well with stock investing, the trick is to actually to just buy good mutual funds, and that's it. That's what I've heard. And you don't think about it, and you don't try to win. You don't try to be a day trader. I invest in stock in a way that I think is more fun. I actually do buy stocks that I think are winners, and I like to read about. I'm very casual, but so far I've only won basically with stocks. I made a bunch of money with Capcom stocks, and I recently just sold off my Google stock, and I made $600 from that. And I'm holding on to a bunch of. Darn, I'm going after this tail. I'm holding on to a bunch of oil stock right now, and right now I've almost made $600 in capital gains on those, but I don't want to sell those right now because I think that they're actually going to continue to rise, just not yet. I think they'll rise later. Penguins are funky tuxedo avian giraffes. Prove me wrong. Right now what I'm doing is I'm shifting a lot of my funds around. I'm going to start sending it all to my bank account, and oh right, I can't heal people. I'm going to start stockpiling my money a little bit, and that's because I owe $28,000 in student debt still. Started with 55, I owe 28. And so my goal is to try and stockpile about $28,000 in my bank account and then pay it all off in one go. So that's my goal right now, is to try and get $28,000 together as fast as I can. Ah, darn. Run, 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 run. What are you doing, Laura? Did Laura jump? Wait, I don't understand. That was weird. But yeah, so the best way to invest in stock is you could just hire somebody like a financial advisor who will tell you, yeah, we're going to invest your money for you. We get a little bit of the profit. And then you just send the money each month, and you can send, like, if you're capable, try to send about $500 a month, and they'll probably invest it in some mutual fund. And ooh, nice. You can usually communicate to them how aggressive you want to invest, like if you want to take bigger risks because you're younger, or if you want to, invest more casually, or not casually, carefully, because you're older. Or usually they'll take care of that stuff for you, even they'll just make the decision for you. Oh man. But if you like to be involved with it, like I was talking about the other night, you can open up. Maybe I should make a video on this. If I made a video on how to invest, how I do it, would you guys watch that? It'd be kind of a weird. It would be a weird video for me to make because it's so unrelated. It's not video gaming and it's not Monster Hunter, right? But yeah, I have an E-Trade account where I move my money around too, and I buy the stocks that I think are going to do well. And so far, I've only done well. I haven't lost any money in the stock market. In fact, the first time I did that, I was 18 years old, and I had an accounting professor. I was taking accounting 1, and he taught us how to open up brokerage accounts and do all this. Did you get it? Oh, that's too bad. Laura got it. I mean, Laura missed. The other guy did. Abyssal got it. But anyways, it was an accounting professor for my accounting 1 class, and he was teaching us how to open up brokerage accounts. And so I opened one up because he was teaching us, and this was a long time ago. So my education has been kind of all over the place. When I first started going to college, it was like back in 2008, actually, which is a long time ago. I took like my first class at a community college. And this was before I had any clue what I wanted to do, and I was only taking like 1 class. And for like 6 years, I just took part-time education at the community college. This was before I went after a 4-year degree in computer science. So this is why I have both an Associates of Art in Business and a science degree in computer science, because back then I was homeschooled. I didn't even know what education was in a way, but I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I ended up taking that accounting class and really enjoying it, actually. Once I had opened up, once I had opened up a brokerage account with, it was E-Trade back then, yeah. Once I had opened up a brokerage account, can I get him? Oh my God, he got me. I invested a bunch of money in a company that had really, really just been shattered by the 2008 economic collapse. And this was AIG. AIG was I believe it's an insurance company for like larger businesses, right? And what happened was I decided I would invest in them because Well, basically, the government was debating whether or not it should bail out these companies, and then it finally said it would. And back then, I think that AIG back then was going for like $60 per stock, but after the crash, they were going for just 13. And after having read a lot of the news, I was pretty confident that they were going to bail out all the companies that were going to go bankrupt from, the housing market bubble popping. And so I decided, okay, I'll buy a bunch of AIG stock, and I did. Back then I bought like $2,000 of AIG stock. I had a little bit of money, I wasn't like rich or anything. I just had a little bit of money that I had saved up because I was always a saver of money. I enjoy having that feeling of having money in the account. So I had a little bit of money and I was like, what am I doing? But I went ahead and I bought $2,000 of stock. And then the government announced, all right, we are actually going to be, handing out bailouts to these companies. And the stock just shot right up right afterwards. Oh, God. Oh, good. This appears to be working. And I ended up making a ton of money from that. And it's funny, though, because the recession wasn't quite over back then. I mean, it wasn't even close to being over yet. So if I had actually left my money in the stock market back then after buying the stock at like $13 a piece, I would have done so... I mean, all that money would have turned into so much money by now, I'm sure of it. But I took it out because I was still young, and I was just playing around with investing. I didn't really know if I was ready to invest. I had classes I wanted to buy. I had normal expenses, like I needed a car and stuff like that. I was real poor, actually, in a lot of ways. I just happened to have money in the bank, and I was risky enough to play with it. But anyways, I did well back then. I also bought like stocks in Target because I noticed Target had fallen quite a lot. And I thought of Target as kind of like Walmart and all these other kind of like blue chip stocks. So I ended up making money doing that with the Target stock as well. It was really exciting. And then I stopped for a long time, and I only recently got back into it because I'm graduated now. So now I'm graduated and I'm working a job. So you should make a channel, The Stockconomist. Rini says, do you have any thoughts about transgender people in the context of your viewpoint, considering men, women, reproductive, and family units we've been talking about lately in the stream? Okay, so some of the things you guys know about, well, one of the things you guys know about me is that I believe that, well, after talking to you guys about it, I found a way to kind of, maybe kind of categorize it in a way that it is in my head. I consider having 3 children as a part of, like, your health. Okay, so we're always talking about healthcare, we're always talking about being healthy. Oh, you shouldn't be obese or whatever, you shouldn't smoke, you shouldn't drink. Well, here's one. You shouldn't skip having kids. It's unhealthy to skip having kids because what you're basically saying is, I don't want to be in the gene pool anymore. To me, it's like a gene pool suicide. And you could try to convince yourself or other people that that's fine that you're falling out of the gene pool. I don't know if I buy that. I think that's probably really bad that you're falling out of the gene pool. But so my worldview assumes that you should... Oh my gosh, is he going to knock that away? He is. That's funny. I didn't have a rock steady. Oh, that's great. You could troll people that way. I saw the barrel and realized what was going to happen. You know what I should have done? I should have triggered it early. So now you guys know, if you see somebody putting a barrel down by the comet, trigger it early before the comet comes down, and that way when it blows up, your teammates can run forward and still get behind the comet, and everyone else needs to stay back. GC here, a dramatic topic. Thoughts on abortion? I think I've already talked about abortion, but let me finish the other thought. So I believe that replacing yourself with your children who survive on after you, and they're your legacy, and they're equivalent to you staying in the gene pool, which I consider a part of survivalism. It's part of surviving, guys. That should be considered healthy. It should be part of your healthy lifestyle, is having 3 children. That's healthy. And we don't talk that way. We don't tell women they need to have 3 children. In fact, it's the other way in the future. We tell men that if you tell women they should have kids, you're oppressing the women and that you're evil, you're patriarchy, you're sexist. So we have it totally backwards because nature basically demands that you have children or you just disappear and cease to exist. That's it. You die in like 70 years and then your whole heritage disappears because you didn't have 3 children. So it should be considered a part of surviving, having 3 kids. It should be considered healthy and part of surviving. When it comes to transgender people who want to say, hey, I was born male, but now I'm female, people probably have a lot of opinions on that, whether it's, okay, you have dysmorphia, you know, why is it you can claim to be a girl, but you can't claim that you're black if you're white, that kind of stuff. So there's all kinds of debate about it. Should boys be allowed to compete in girls' sports? Everyone has varying opinions about it. But what's nice about my point of view about the world is you don't have to talk about all that stuff. You just need to have 3 kids. You have to have kids. I don't care what you think you are. If you're missing out on having kids, you're disappearing from the gene pool. It's really simple. You're choosing genetic suicide, is what I think you're doing. So whatever you choose to be, I don't really care necessarily. Or, you could ask me to talk about the different subjects and we can decide what seems more reasonable. But whatever you conclude, if you've decided not to have children, you're committing genetic suicide, in my opinion. And that's probably the more important, maybe like the root priority that you're needing to talk about. So that's, I consider it really important. Anyways. Is agitator worth it for Safajiva? I mean, you don't have to have agitator. Or you could, that's a good question. I would take agitator, yeah. Why not? Yeah, I would take agitator. Why not? Let's post Extreme Behemoth again. Start a channel called The Gaming Scientist. What? TGC, have you ever considered being a lobbyist? Nope. Just a guy on YouTube. Gameconomist, have you ever considered being a tattoo artist? What is the difference between spirit vein slog bone and spirit vein solid bone? I have no clue. Uta says, what about adoption? So there's going to be people who cannot have children because they're born infertile, and that's not their fault. They should consider adopting children. Otherwise, the vast majority, 99% of the rest of society needs to continue to have children. Let's say you wanted to cut your junk off, like let's say you wanted to cut your nut sack off, and this is going to stop you from being able to have your own children, even though it's functioning normally on your body. I don't agree with that. I consider it a form of mutilating that makes it impossible for you to pass your genes on. So if you were to ask me, do I think it's a good idea to cut your balls off? My response would be no. It doesn't matter what you think you are. Nature needs your sperm in order for you to have children, and I think that having your own children is a part of genetic survival. Do you think the promotion of transgenderism destructive to a nation and its culture? That's a tough one. That's a tough one, because it's kind of the question you're touching on is whether people should have the freedom to do literally anything they want, or should we be required to adhere to gender norms? Because perhaps, let's argue, adhering to gender norms provides a family unit to the government, and this is better for your country. So that's a tough one. What about people who are made infertile later in life? Well, they can adopt children too. I'm not against adoption, by the way. So if you want to have kids adopted from another couple, that's fine. In a way, we all kind of live with each other in society. What I do have to say is you shouldn't be giving up the opportunity to have your own children. I am saying that. Because if you purposefully choose to, let's say, mutilate your own genitals, let's say you're cutting your nutsack off, you're not going to have your own babies. And I consider that like a form of genetic suicide. It's the opposite of genetic survival. Renee says, what about people who are made... Oh, I already read that one. Vasectomy, what is cutting balls off? I'm going to pay with money. I'm going to have the chef's choice platter. Question marks are for chumps, says the LSSJ Broly. If it sounds like I'm farting, it's not. My chair's very squeaky these days. This is an old chair. It's like 2 years old now. I had someone in the car stream was like, you farted. It was my chair. What is my favorite Pokemon? Great question. I'm a big fan of Tyranitar. If you want to talk about powerful Pokemon, say I think people have like two favorite types of Pokemon. Ones that they find powerful versus maybe like ones they find cute. If you want to talk about cute, probably the Shuckle. Survivor says one thing is allowing it, the other is encouraging it. Yeah, I've heard that discussion. I think I heard Vladimir Putin actually talking a little bit about that subject. He was saying that Western media demonizes Russia as being like anti-LGBTQ, and he was kind of defending his position and saying, we're not against it. You're free to do what you want. We just don't think it should be pushed on kids. And I kind of agree with them. I have to say that because, again, I had 11 siblings. I was the oldest brother. You can absolutely brainwash kids. It's very easy to brainwash kids, actually. That's why kids believe in Santa Claus. They believe in the Easter Bunny. Kids believe in whichever religion you happen to be in. It's because kids are really stupid. Kids are really freaking dumb. They just believe whatever you tell them. They don't actually have the brain's mental capacity to argue. It's impossible for children to argue. They just accept anything you tell them. So if you were to say maybe you shouldn't push certain sexual lifestyles on children, I would actually agree with this. Children probably shouldn't be worrying about that stuff until they've gone through puberty. Don Bongo says, what if genetic suicide is an evolutionary tactic to prevent against overpopulation? No, the way you prevent overpopulation is family planning, but completely removing yourself from the gene pool doesn't make any sense. Frank Ford says, do you invest in drips? I've heard about drips, but I do not invest in them. How do you feel about same-sex marriage? Yeah, people were asking about that as well. I think I had a little more time to think about the question, and I think that anyone who wants to get married should be capable of being married. I think that the rules should change so that getting married does not give you any kind of like government advantages. So one of the reasons you get married is so that you can file your taxes together and save a bunch of money. Now, I don't know if that's true everywhere. It might not be true in your country. But in America, when you get married, you save a ton of money on taxes. So there's a good reason to get married. So I think if you're gay and you're in love with somebody, you should just marry them and be allowed to marry them. Because that's not some complicated scheme like, you're not twirling your spiral mustache and hoping to destroy the family unit in a country with your degeneracy, right? Your homosexual degeneracy. None of that's really occurring. I think that a lot of homosexuality is just kind of something that happens because it's something you like to do. However, I do think that the country should, first of all, get rid of the dual file taxes for marriage, and then they should reinvent it for people who are actually having children. So dual file taxes should be something that the government, I'm not a heel, I keep forgetting that. The government should set aside a program that says, if you're providing the government with children, you get a special tax break. And if you're not providing the government with children, you do not get a special tax break. Simple. Because that was the original intention of the tax break. Back when we wrote the rules, like, okay, here's your dual file taxes. Back when we wrote those rules, gay people didn't get married back then. So the taxes were for assumed, husbands and wives. What are your thoughts on the girls should be able to join Boy Scouts debate? Yeah, so I think that the Boy Scouts did that because they're in big trouble. Hold on. Oh, darn it. I think the Boy Scouts did that because they're seeing, basically, their company is falling apart. Boy Scouts is a for-profit company, even if they don't say so, and they're seeing memberships falling, and they're thinking, how do we combat this? And they say, hey, what if we just allow girls to join as well? I think people will allow us to get away with this. So I think it was basically done for a financial reason, and I think ultimately it's sad. I think that boys should have a group like the Boy Scouts that's exclusive to boys. I think that that's actually very healthy and good. Just like the girls should have something that's exclusive for girls. However, the problem with that is I don't like the Girl Scouts either. So the Girl Scouts, God, I hate the Girl Scouts. I don't know if I've ever told you guys that. I see the Girl Scouts as basically, it's like a system to get 6-year-old girls to sell your stupid ass cookies for a ridiculous profit margin. Have you ever looked at like the actual cost of the Girl Scout cookies? They're ridiculous, man. They cost like literally twice as much as the equivalent cookies. Like Keebler likes to copy the cookies you can get from the Girl Scouts. if you look at those cookies, they're like twice as expensive from the Girl Scouts. How do they sell them at that price? Oh, easy, because they get a bunch of stupid girls to sell the cookies for free. The girls sell the cookies for free. You go to like a Walmart, right? And there's the stupid girls. They're just cute little girls doing what their moms tell them to do, hanging out. It's probably very fun, actually. They probably enjoy it. But they're just these young girls doing anything they're told, and they're selling these cookies for a ridiculous profit margin. Absolutely ridiculous. It's not even healthy for you. There's no reason to be buying cookies. And they do it, and you buy them for just to make the girls feel better. You're like, here you go, I'll buy your cookies, because if you don't buy them, you'll never learn how to be a cookie salesman? Dude, teach the girls accounting or something. Teach them a useful skill. They teach it cookies. Well, anyways, and the girls don't even do very much selling. Like, they just stand there in front of Walmart and say, hey, you want to buy cookies? Like, is that really a skill? I don't think that's an actual skill. I don't think that's an actual skill. Well, that no, it won. Cool. Nice. Smacked him in the head real hard. So anyways, these girls stand in front of Walmart selling you these cookies that are ridiculous. And behind it all is somebody who makes millions of dollars. I don't know who it is, but they make millions of dollars. And from what I understand, they then make very generous donations, typically to whichever party supports feminism, the left. So they make very generous donations to Planned Parenthood, and they make very generous donations to the left to support feminism, right? So you can have forced women on the board of directors. Now, it's been a long time since I've looked that kind of stuff up. Why don't, I bet I could look that stuff up right now. We could have a quick look-see and see what the Girl Scouts donates to. They make probably millions of dollars, and it doesn't go to the girls, it goes to the people who own Girl Scouts. Girl Scouts and Planned Parenthood. Well, I tell you what, I can't really focus on that in the middle of the live stream because I want to help these guys. I'll look into it later, perhaps. I just think it's a little bit silly. You get this group that gets you to buy cookies. It's not even healthy for you. You're only buying it because a bunch of girls are trying to sell it to. But it's actually a big corporation that makes the cookies, right? The girls don't go home and make those cookies. You're not buying their cookies. It's an actual cookie factory made by somebody who's running, they're basically running a large business of selling cookies. But the salespeople are child labor, right? The children don't get paid, right? Isn't that how it works? They don't actually get paid. Josh says, to be honest, there might be a price that the kids think that is worth it, but compared to how much money they make, it's nothing. Oh, I promise you they make money. This is one of the things that might surprise you guys. You might not know about it. A lot of these not-for-profit companies are totally for profit, right? They say they're not for profit. They kind of like, they get the license to say they're not for profit, but they're not for profit companies who are definitely for profit. The people who run the companies make millions of dollars. Look this up. This is a real thing. Like Goodwill and places like that, they make a lot of money. It is not a small amount of money. You got like CEOs running these not-for-profits, and they get millions. They get millions. And they still get that title, that not-for-profit title. Like, oh yeah, this is a not-for-profit, we help. It's like, yeah, yourselves. How did Goodwill happen? Think about it. Goodwill's crazy, isn't it? Goodwill's this store where they don't even pay for their own product. People just give them stuff for free. And then you get a CEO who gets paid millions of dollars for it. And they get special tax status because of their not-for-profit status. It's like, it's a not-for-profit, but also it's for profit. Let's get behind this rock real fast. It's the not-for-profit for profit. and that's how I think of, that's how I think of the Girl Scouts. They look very well-to-do, but they're making millions of dollars, and then they get to donate the millions of dollars to whichever political party they're a fan of. It's very annoying. The Boy Scouts are all about the money too. That's why I was saying I don't think that the Boy Scouts wanted to include girls as some form of, okay, we're now the feminist Boy Scouts. I don't think that was what was going on. They were just like, how do we increase the amount of money we make? And they're like, oh, simple. We just allow girls to join. I think that's what actually happened. Democrats are evil. Democrats aren't evil. I think a lot of Democrats are actually very generous people. They're just maybe a little bit naive too. Thoughts on the black pill philosophy and the ever-growing black pill incel community? I do not even know what that means. People talk about red pill, purple pill, rainbow pill. I don't know what any of the pills mean. So, yeah, I have no clue what you mean by that. Not-for-profit is different than non-profit. Don't make the mistake of confusing the two. Whatever the case is, you're right. I get you. Whatever the case is, they have this silly name and they get special tax. They don't have to pay quite as much in taxes, and then they still make millions of dollars. Ben Suss says, isn't that how ADGQ continues every year? Rieger says, join the party. Sora, I also haven't hunt him and want to try now. Sora's in here? Utam says, do you think biotech have potential in the stock market? Maybe. LSSJ Burley says, have you ever watched Technoblade destroy other YouTubers? Did he use facts and logic? How's it going, Enzu? Absolute Recall says, are you out of your mind? I'm super out of my mind. What is your opinion on fourth wave feminism? We come up with like these terms: third wave, second wave, fourth wave. I don't like labels, I guess I would say. Yeah, the concept of feminism, I'm not a huge fan of. In fact, I was saying earlier that I think that of all the ideologies, feminism might be the most damaging ideology right now. I think it actually destroys the relationship between men and women. It turns women into husbands, not wives. And I think it makes men incapable of seeing women as women. It makes you afraid to see them as women. You're afraid to see them as women. You want to see them as like yourself. I don't want to offend her. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get canceled. I don't want to get, I don't want to get fired from my job. So there's this very strong push to make women basically like men. And I think it absolutely has destroyed the family unit. And I think that if you can't have a family, you will not have a society either. Very simple. If you can't have 3 children, you just will not have a society. It might take 100 years for that to happen, so you all have to get old first, but you just won't have a society. You'll be replaced by a society that does still believe that women should be mothers. That's what will eventually happen. You'll either do that, or you'll just sort of recede and then lose some other way. Maybe like in a war. What's your thoughts on a very religious country? Because I was born in one. While I'm not religious, I'm not convinced anyone God exists. Yeah, I think that religion basically helps you. I think that religion has basically allowed a group of people to control another group of people. That's what I think religion allows. It's why there's so many religions. There's a bunch of them. So like you go to India, they got their religion. You go to some place in Asia, like China, it has like Confucianism. You got Japan's got, I can't remember what you call it. You've got obviously the Middle East is going to be Islam. You've got the Jews, you've got the Christians, you've got used to be the Greeks and the Romans had their pantheon. So you got all these religions, and I think that in a lot of successful religions, the belief in God gives you power, because basically what you say is, I'm speaking on behalf of God, so you kind of have to do what I'm telling you to do. And then the rules that are implemented in religions, typically they're there for the society. So everyone worships the same tree together, and this is what gives you sort of like a social cohesion and allows you to do things like die in battle together. So it's like if you all believe in the same God and you're all going to go to the same heaven, well then you can kind of shake hands and then go die for with each other, fighting off some enemy who doesn't believe in your religion. So religion, it does a lot of things. I notice a lot of the successful religions make sure that women become mothers. And so all those religions have survived. They're still here. They're here from like 2,000 years ago. You guys ever think about that? Not a lot of things survived 2,000 years. The Jews did, Islam did, and Christianity did. They're 2,000 years old. What do you think the trick was? The trick was they kept having children. That was the trick. So I strongly agree with the religions on that at this point. And do I think it's bad you're from a strongly religious country? I think that sometimes when a country is too religious, this actually holds back scientific progress. Some religions will, Christianity famously, the Catholics famously put Isaac Newton in jail in his home, like a house jail, because he said that the earth rotates around the sun rather than the other way around. So the Catholic Church prosecuted him for saying that, which is ridiculous. So religion very often is very rigid, and it doesn't allow you to think very open-mindedly. And this is one of the reasons why I left religion, besides all of the you can have all kinds of philosophical discussions about the existence of God, and it gets really interesting when you do. And so I was all super woke and out of religion. And it's funny because I'm full circling. I'm all the way back to we should have traditional families again. You have to. You have to have families. It is part of your health. Having children and 3 children to survive you is part of your health. And if you don't think that way, you know, get ready to disappear from the gene pool. And if you think disappearing from the gene pool is great, good for you. You bye bye. If you don't think it's great, then you probably are listening to this and agreeing with me a little bit. Okay, let's go ahead and get one of these started. Join quest. What do we got? Secret of the Ooze. How bad do you think it is for homeless people out there in these times? I think that probably if you were poor, coronavirus is going to disproportionately affect you. So I think that just in general, poor people, it's like the winners keep winning and the losers lose more. It's kind of that kind of situation. Think of it, it's kind of true for school too, right? Like I'm paying back a student loan with interest. Well, if I just was already wealthy, I wouldn't be paying any interest. I would have just paid for the education outright. So the losers lose. It's really tough. How bad do you think it is for homeless people out there in these times, like the burning of Alexandria Library? I think the trick was money. I know part of the creed for Christianity and Judaism, at least, is giving to the church. All religions require that you take care of the religion. So the religion, a good religion, maybe a religion that survives, is almost like it has very viral concepts in it, concepts that allow it to be passed from basically from parent to child, and it just continues to do this throughout the generations for 2,000 years, for thousands of years. So it just shows you some ideas last. Some ideas have already been figured out, guys, and they last. So it is important to understand how religions work so that we can apply that to our lives. Even if you don't necessarily believe in, like God or anything like that, you should be going like, why are they still around? How have we not defeated these religions? How are they still here? Why 3 children? Because you need 3 children to replace you and your wife. One of your children may not be successful. They could die in a car crash. They could decide, hey, I'm just not going to have kids. They could be infertile, whatever. Oh yeah, it's my favorite Trump supporter. What? What are our options, Raul? What are our options? We've got Donald Trump or Joe Biden. Those are the 2 options. Joe Biden can't even talk, man. Joe Biden is so clearly having dementia right now. He can barely talk. There's no way I'm going to vote for nearly 80. They're both old, but Joe Biden's older, okay, to be fair. I joined just in time to win. I am just not going to vote for somebody who is clearly supposed to be in the nursing home at this point. He is way too old. So you can hate Trump all you want. I would rather have somebody who's still actually there. Easy decision. Thoughts on next generation consoles and monsters after May? I'm very excited for the next generation consoles. My money is ready. And monsters after May. I don't know what to expect. It's all up to Capcom how hard they support this game, but it already feels like they're very slow at supporting the game. So I don't feel very optimistic about it. Thoughts on, already read that one. You're not the only person in your family line. Having family is good, I agree, but requiring 3 kids is just over-exaggerating. No, not at all. Not at all. There's many cases where multiple children die in a single family. You could be in a car crash with your brother and you and your brother die. So having 3 children is just enough basically to keep your genes passing along. You should, if you really wanted to succeed, you should have like 5 and 6 kids. Or be like my dad, have 11 kids. Then you have a lot of kids. I'd rather adopt a dog or cat as my child. Well, and that's maybe when you get older and you're like on your deathbed, you'll be thinking like, oh man, maybe I should have had kids. Your cats will last, like 13 years, maybe. They're going to die. You could eat them if you wanted to. They're just animals. People don't like that idea, but it's like, we eat pigs. Pigs are really intelligent. You guys, I don't know if you guys knew that. Pigs are like as smart as dogs. We eat them all the time. Let's join another. They're animals, man. And that's maybe a whole nother conversation you could have, by the way. That's like an animal rights argument. Or should we be allowed to eat animals? Imagine voting for someone who kisses his granddaughter on the lips, LMAO. Are you talking about Donald Trump or Joe Biden? I don't actually know who you're talking about. Joe Biden's pretty creepy, right? Is he referring to Joe Biden? Wrong time to jump into the stream, too. Wrong time to jump into the stream talking about kids dying. That's right. Frenetic Soul says, I'd rather have dementia Biden and a coherent VP run the country than Trump. No, not me. No, not at all. Did you see what he said 2 days ago? I hope you did. And if you're still going to vote for him, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself for voting for the person that you're going to vote for. See, we can both play that game. Raul says, how about you succeed yourself instead of relying on the success or some of your freaking 11 kids? I don't know what you're saying, Raul. Your sentence didn't really make sense. Jojo says, pigs are more intelligent than dogs. I've heard about that, Jojo. Samuel says, it's sad when people think their genes are not worth passing on. Precisely. And, you could argue maybe if you really believe that, well, then it's just, reality taking care of itself. But I think that sometimes people have to be reminded that you should want to have children, right? Some people need to be shaken and been told, hey, have some kids. Biden is a creep. What? Ranjit says, didn't you say you need to give your parents money? So I don't know about that successful part. I don't know what you mean by that, Ranjit. My wife's parents really struggle with money really badly because they have very bad spending habits. And her mother got cancer, and we've been helping her with the cancer. Quite a lot, actually. Which is better, 20 affinity or 20% attack boost? Well, is crit boost involved? Because if crit boost is involved, then the affinity is. What's my opinion about Elytrian coming to Iceborne? I have no opinion because we don't know if he's a fun fight yet, but hopefully he will be. Thrifty says, why not move to Canada? Why not move to, I don't know, Europe? That's why the US and Mexico are overpopulated. What? Mexico's overpopulated? I didn't know that. Is World War E real wrestling? It's not real wrestling. Alright, let's go ahead and smack him in the head. Boop. Trump used to shave Vince McMahon's hair off in WWE. 3 children maybe would have been good thousands of years ago, but not in times of over... What are you talking... See, that's another thing. So Magic Time, you're being lied to. You are being lied to about overpopulation. The world's not overpopulated. It is far from overpopulated. People who want you to not have any kids so that they can live better lives, those are the people who scream overpopulation. The world is not over. It's not even close to overpopulated. And in fact, I promise you, I swear to God, you will see a new problem arise where the world's actually depopulating, which is not necessarily bad either. It's not necessarily bad that the world's depopulating, but people are increasingly not having kids, and that's going to be the big problem in the future, not this overpopulation stuff. We could talk about sustainability. We could talk about having a cleaner environment, definitely. Like, for example, India and China do almost all of the polluting. It's not that the U.S. doesn't pollute plenty on its own, but I mean, India and China, I believe they do more than like the next 6 countries combined, right? So you can talk about reducing, the carbon footprint or technological solutions to greenhouse gas effects. You can talk about the supply chain for keeping everyone well fed. There is so much empty, unused space on Earth. So much of it. We just pollute stuff because we're shitty at it, you know what I mean? In the past, I guess it didn't matter. There wasn't enough trash yet to care. And there were less people in the past, so we just didn't care so much. Or we also were less educated and involved with this kind of stuff, so we just didn't know. But the trick, of course, is just to become sustainable. The idea that the Earth is underpopulated is just silly. People who say that stuff. It's like, you should do us all a favor and be the first to not, have any children and exist. If you think it's overpopulated, feel free to be the first to get rid of yourself. Monica, thanks so much. Can I show my build? I absolutely can, Monica. Thank you so much for the donation. Even if you move to another country, it would take more years to get citizens than Trump being the president. What? Aaron says, wrestling became fake for me when Steve Austin did his stunner on McCone, and then there was a 6-inch gap between his shoulder and McCone's chin. What? Vita Neon says, it's not overpopulation, it's how badly the resources are distributed all around the world. That's a problem. Also, I agree with depopulation. You will see that the world has a depopulation problem. Look at China. China, they're having almost no children. There's some places, actually it's usually poor places that have a lot of children, and it's not 3 children that they have. They have like 12 kids, okay? They're like my dad. They have tons of kids. So if you think 3 kids is a lot, you need to spend some time in the Catholic Church where they still have like 12 kids. I assume they do. I don't know. Maybe it's reduced these days. There's way too many people, man. There's way too many. Well, then get rid of yourself, Raul. You should be the first. If you think there's too many people, feel free to head out. See what I'm saying? You don't get to sit back and just tell people, hey, you shouldn't exist. That's ridiculous. And there's not even clear evidence that there's too many people. That's just a popular that's a popular leftist belief to get rid of people. That is a popular belief of the left. Oh, there's too many people, so you need to go. Not me, of course. You. It's so silly, man. It is such a beta male belief. Like, oh man, we can't have babies. There's too many humans. No, man, people aren't having babies. That is actually a bigger problem. That's why Germany imported all those people from the Middle East. Is because nobody in Germany is having kids. In France, they have like 1 kid per 2 people. So men and women are having like 1 kid. You've got like 2 places where the population's still high. China's one of them, but China's actually reducing too. You've got a growing middle class in China, and they're starting to reduce the number of kids that they have. And there's like Africa, basically. Africa still has tons and tons of large families. The rest of the world's receding, man. There's overpopulation. Dude, you do some more research. Do like a little more research on the subject. Samuel says, I'm being honest, you're the most enjoyable and entertaining streamer. I've followed bonus. I agree with 99. Thank you very much, Samuel. If anything, there's way too many old people and not enough babies being born. Yeah, so actually one of the reasons why healthcare is so expensive is because we're trying to treat every old person who decided not to save up any money, or they didn't save up very much, despite living in some of the most lucrative places in the whole world, like America. They paid low taxes their whole life, but they lived fast, they bought big cars, they bought things they didn't need, they didn't buy retirements, and then they got old, they're ready for cancer, and they have no savings for cancer because people don't save up for the winter. Right? Did any of you guys read that? I don't remember what story this was from. Don't you guys remember the story of the grasshopper and the ants? And the ants would carry food down into their tunnels all summer long, and the grasshopper would play a fiddle. And then winter came along and the grasshopper died. It's that story all over again, but it's for the young and the old. Some old people saved up a bunch of money and they can afford to retire and take care of themselves and take care of their children. And then plenty of people just kind of spent their money on consumables their whole life and didn't save any money, and now they're older. But instead of dying in the winter, they go, okay, you guys need to buy me stuff now. And then young people can't figure out why there's not enough money for them. Well, I'll tell you why there's not enough money, because almost all the money in the country goes to Social Security and socialized healthcare. It's one of the beliefs of Europe is that America doesn't have socialized healthcare. Socialized healthcare is our biggest expense. It's like that and Social Security. John Cena memes are the best. Reducing everyone in China is being incinerated after they die from that shitty beer. What's your religion then? Please tell us the story of how you became a follower, please. What is my religion? I used to be Catholic when I was younger, and now I would say I don't have a religion. there is a thing when population is high, there will always be a stalemate point. The only point where population skyrocketed is when resources is higher than the population. The kid cookie and chocolate sellers. Ridiculous what capitalism is doing to us. How did you become a follower of your religion? When I was born, my parents were already Catholic, and because I was a stupid kid, they made me Catholic, and I had no way to combat that, because when you're a kid, you just become whatever your parents tell you to become. So if you were born in the Middle East, you became a Muslim. If you were born in India, you became, I don't know, Hindu. I don't know what Indians actually practice over there. I apologize. If you were born in America, there's a very good chance you became Christian. And eventually I left Catholicism. Technobabble says, thoughts on dating younger women. Women lose up to 90% of their eggs by the age of 30, and most women I meet my age are fully committed to education or their careers. I don't see any problem with dating younger women. Just like I don't see... So a lot of guys call women like gold diggers for wanting wealthy men. I don't see any problem with it at all. If a woman wants to date a man for having money, I don't see any problem with that. What's your favorite food? If you answer this or not, I'm going to head out. My favorite food is seafood. I love stinky, stinky, stinky seafood and spicy peppers. Do you think America should stop supporting Israel through fiduciary means? Let me look up fiduciary. I used to know what that means. I've forgotten. I knew fiduciary because I had to learn that term when I worked at the banks. You had a fiduciary account, and it was a really interesting account because you were not allowed to tell the children that fiduciary accounts existed. So you would have a parent would open a fiduciary account for some their child usually, or whoever the benefactor was, and they just weren't allowed to know about it. So yeah, okay. So thank you for asking me that. And he says, should we stop supporting Israel? I've heard that Israel is an ally in the Middle East, and we use them for a lot of our military operations, and we use them to gather information about conflicts in the Middle East. And I think there's also this thing that goes on where we have a lot of fundamentalist Christians in the United States who see Israel as kind of like, like the grandfather of the Christian religion. So they're like, we're best buddies, we got to protect them. So I don't know, it's a weird thing. I've read that the United States prefers, for actual military reasons, to support Israel. I don't have a strong opinion on it either way. See you later, Astro. Love the stream. Frankendorf says, how do you cope with eventual death, and do you fear death? Frankendorf, yeah, I do fear death, and it is something that used to give me a lot of depression and anxiety, actually. But I think also the more I thought about it, the more I kind of got over it. Actually, you know how they talk about the stages of like loss? There's like grief, there's disbelief or whatever that is. You won't accept it, and then there's acceptance, and then you getting over it. I think I kind of went through those stages, and that has helped me a little bit. So I've reached a point where feeling depression and anxiety over the reality that we're all going to die has kind of gotten boring a little bit, and my brain's just kind of adjusted to it and kind of accepted it. So I'm at that acceptance stage. But yeah, it does actually really bother me. I read the Bible and learned that it's hypocritical and can't be the word of God. Well, find somebody who enjoys studying the Bible and they'll disagree with you. Raul says, I'm born in an extreme religious place, not religious at all, never have. I made this account just for this. You're extremely accurate and it's terrifying. Hey, how's your day been? Pretty good, Jader. Every time I see anything about Americans having problems for dating young girls, I laugh the sheep out of me. Why is that, Vita? Do you live in a country where it's pretty normal to date a younger woman? Let's see, what do we have here? We'll join Achy Breaky Heart. I really like the Achy Breaky Heart just because it's the most recent quest. Raphael says, oh, I'm sorry, hold on. This is how to win the capitalism game. Find the niche, suck all the money you need out of it. I mean, I guess. I see capitalism as the voluntary agreement between a buyer and seller. That's what capitalism to me is. And you move money around in order to invest in a product. And since you've made an investment, you often become very good at offering the product. And because you're so skilled at offering the product, there's like this efficiency that creates a surplus. Okay, so if I'm very good at making shoes, I become so efficient at it that I make shoes very quickly. And then when I sell them to you and you're not very efficient at making shoes, it's a good exchange between the two of us. So I turn a little bit of a profit because I'm so good at it. That's how I see capitalism. The intel which we get from Israel is not good, says Absolute Recoil. Probably the United States generals and the Pentagon should be making a decision on that, not you. Israel is the best country in the world, says Ryu Shinobi. I don't know if I agree with that. Kazarus says, I think there's probably so much going on in the Middle East behind the scenes that we couldn't possibly make an actually informed opinion. Now that I agree with. And that's what's so scary about it all. You can have an opinion about it either way, but it's like the only people who really know what's going on are probably in the Pentagon and in the White House. So it's kind of a scary situation where it's like, gosh, I hope our leaders are on our team, basically. Absolute Recoil says Israel needs to be destroyed. Oh, no, man. Absolute Recoil says nuke Israel. Man, when people say stuff like that, I promise you that other people who are more rational, they go, let's protect Israel. Because there's guys like Absolute going around say, ooh, let's nuke them, right? So people who are rational say, we got to find out who's saying that and stop that. Rail says, this guy's a Tiger King, lol. DGK Cat says, for me, I don't fear death, but I fear what's the other side you might not if Jesus, Allah, or whatever belief is there. But I fear what's the other side you might not. What? Geralt says, I thought the armor was going to look grand. Glorious not. It looks like shite. Nuke Recoil. That's right. TNT says, why so much animosity to the left? I actually used to be on the left. And over time, I found, we distinguish ideologies from religion and politics as if they're different, but I don't think they're that different. I think the difference between politics and religion is that with politics, a lot of it involves actual practical management of resources in your country. However, much of the time, when you're talking about either politics or religion, you're mostly talking about how we organize our lives. And so politicians will tell you how to live, just like religion will tell you how to live. Religion will often be focused on your moral beliefs, your self-management, whereas politics will focus on institutions and what it can do as like a centralized organization with a lot of people's money, taxes, right? But there's actually quite a lot of overlap. And so when I look at the left, I'm often looking at them through the scope of like, how are they helping people? And actually, I think that the left, not just the left, but the right is capable of doing a lot of damage. So I actually do think that some of the ideologies of the left are terrible. For example, feminism. I think feminism is awful. I think it absolutely destroys women. It stops them from being mothers, which they should be. And it makes men afraid to be men, basically. I think it makes you afraid that, oh man, if I acted like a boy, if I was a man, they're going to say I'm a sexist. They're going to say I'm a toxic masculinity, all this other crap. Right, and it is absolutely, and they talk about it like it's there to help men. It's not there to help men. I promise you, it's just not. Oh man, that's one of their biggest lies. Oh man, feminism. This is what they will tell you. They'll say there's Don Draper types in the world. This is what they'll say. There's Don Draper types in the world, and these are sexist men who are at the top of the hierarchy, and they hold all the little men beneath them down. And feminism frees you from having to be a Don Draper type. For those of you who don't know who Don Draper is, he's like a very successful, sexy, tall, dark businessman, right? He's basically like an ideal for men. And what the feminists will say is, we make it so that all the men have to be equal with each other. Well, this is that same concept of like equality of outcomes. It's sort of like communism. And is absolutely horrifying because nature doesn't want us to have equality of outcomes. Equality of outcomes, for those of you who don't really understand what that is, it's kind of like if we all went into the same math test and then we all came out with a C minus. That would be equality of outcome. We all have roughly the same grade. Now, actual equality would be like this. You go into a math test, half the class gets an F, some of the class gets a C, most of the larger chunk of the remaining students get a B, and then the top, like 5% get an A. So just about 5% of the students get an A. That would be equality of opportunity. And what happens is, when you have equality of opportunity, you actually you enter into a situation where you have unequal outcomes. So if everyone goes in to take the same math test and they have the same book and they have the same week to study the test, whatever, right? If you have all those things occur, the funny thing is, very consistently over time, you find that some students are really good at math and you find that some students are really not that good at math. So equality of outcome forces everyone to have a C minus, a bad grade, whereas equality of opportunity, some students do really well, and then they enter the upper class or maybe the elite class, right? They're able to live a better lifestyle than you. The left is hyper sensitive to these unequal outcomes. They're like, no, we all need to be poor together. Well, they have this concept that maybe we can all be rich together, I think. That's just never going to happen. There's not enough money, because money doesn't come from wealth redistribution. Money strictly comes from the production of a new good. A new good makes money. So if you go out and you design a Game Boy, and the world decides, oh man, I gotta have a Game Boy, you've created something new. You've taken a raw material, and you've made it useful to people, and now everyone wants your Game Boy, and now you're going to make a ton of money. That creates money. Okay, when the government prints money, they have not actually made money. What they've done is they've stolen everyone else's money, because once there's more money in circulation, all of the money is worth less. But when you create a new product and somebody wants to start trading with you for that product, you've actually created wealth. Okay, so the left has these ideas of, we're going to redistribute wealth, which does not create any new money. And the reason we're redistributing wealth is because we believe that we should have equal outcomes. Everyone should be wealthy. And what I believe what will really happen is everyone will be poor. Everyone should be wealthy. No one should be poor. It doesn't matter how poorly you manage your money. Everyone should get to have these things, like everyone should get to go to school for free and learn all these useless subjects for free. Of course, it's never actually free, which is something that people on the left are just very bad at understanding. It's never free, it's always paid in the form of taxes. So you all have less of your money to go buy a Game Boy, something you might actually really enjoy, or let's say a retirement, something quite important, because you spent more of your tax money paying for everyone's stupid degree in psychology, which is useless, doesn't actually create a product. Okay, so the left believes in all these concepts like wealth redistribution and forced equality of outcomes. That would be like Nancy Pelosi, who believes that women should be on the board of directors just because they're women, just because they have vaginas. Right? That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. You have a vagina? All right, well, this business has to hire one of you, and it has to have a vagina, right? It's one of the most sexist ideas, actually, because for all of human existence, men have kind of inherently understood, some men are superior to me. I'm inferior to some men. They're smarter, they're taller, they're stronger. And we understand that. We do that really well. Like, you become a soldier and he becomes the general, and you're on the same team, and that's okay. But women don't, it's funny, feminism doesn't like this idea of the Don Drapers, men who are maybe the ideal. They don't like that idea. They tell you, oh, feminism will give you equality. What they mean is they want to give you equality of outcomes, which is communism. It's really, really ineffective at making products. Wealth redistribution doesn't create new wealth. It just redistributes what already exists. And then really what happens is people who would normally take capital to go create new products and innovate, they decide, I'm out of here. I'm going to America where they don't tax me as much. That's what happens. And then you see a brain drain occur in your country. And then your country falls behind America because America's out there creating all the products while all of your geniuses have left to America, and maybe your mediocre bread pushers and Walmart workers are still in your country. But that's it. So why do we have all these companies? We've got Google, we've got Microsoft, we've got like everything, Twitter, Amazon. Why are they all here? Well, maybe all the intelligent people moved over to America and said, I want to be a capitalist and an innovator and an entrepreneur. I want to live in the Wild West. And that was okay, and it's not okay anymore because they're all super wealthy, and we're like, oh, we hate super wealthy people. We hate them. We hate them, and we need to take their money. And you have a right to a psychology degree, a useless psychology degree. Raul says, poor wife of yours. Well, you should meet my wife. She's really beautiful, and she's actually really happy in the relationship she's in. So, man, it would suck for you if you were to realize that I'm living a great life, wouldn't it? The Reserve prints money after the government promises to pay them back with interest. The Fed is not the government, but the debt is owned by the government, like when you buy a new car. Ben says, how would you argue against people that say that socialism does not lead to communism? Well, I don't, I think that, I think it's all, they're right a little bit when you say socialism does not lead to communism. Okay, it is possible for socialism to not lead to communism. In fact, my opinion is that most first world countries already do have plenty of socialism. Okay, so the United States, we have, what do we have? We have, I'm trying to remember what it's called, Medicare and Medicaid. Okay, we already have some forms of socialism. We have the WIC program where women, infant children. We have the Pell Grants for people who want to go to school, but they're poor, so you can apply for the Pell Grant. We already have lots of forms of socialism where basically it's wealth redistribution. I think the question is this. Very often our politicians are debating over how much wealth redistribution we should have. And you want to choose an amount that you want to make sure that your government is investing the money and having a good return on investment. Okay? Oh no! Nice, we got him. You want to make sure that your government is investing the money and having a good return on investment. And the truth is, government's never been that good at investing money. In fact, it's funny. A lot of you guys don't consider this. People who are really good at investing, they don't work for the government. They go to the private sector because it pays more. The government doesn't make you a billionaire for being the best investor. The government pays you whatever it's going to pay you, like maybe even $100,000 a year. But you don't become a millionaire working for the government. So if you're a really brilliant investor, you just don't work for the government. You go out into the private sector. But then we're going to say, okay, socialist government, you make the best investing decisions for our country. And they're like, we're not experts at this. If we were good at this, we would have already moved over to, Bank of America and Goldman Sachs, right? So this is the frustrating part. And it's one of the reasons why I think that having a society that kind of mostly avoids socialism or social programs generally tends to be a wealthier society. Hello, GE. I decided to play a game called Shadow of War instead of Monster Hunter. Are you familiar with it? I am not. Yesterday, you talked about young people should work hard and save most of their money for investment. How should I do investments? Learn from others, books, or hire someone too? So ZF, if you want to work on your retirement account and not know anything about retirement, you could just find one of those financial advice companies. There's so many of them. Raymond James, Nicholas & Nicholas, Edward Jones. There's a good list of them. And these guys, they're basically brokers who take your money and invest it for you, and they take a little bit of the money that you make from the investment. And what they do is they put together a large clientele of people who they're investing for, and because they have so many people who they're investing for, they get paid well. Okay, so you could look up a company like Edward Jones, say, I want to open up a retirement account, and they will say, great, how much money would you like to deposit? You'll say, I will deposit $200 a month. And they say, great. All right, so here's how you set that up. They will hook it up so that they will take the money right out of your bank account. And then basically what Edward Jones does is they take your money. I learned about Edward Jones because I was interested in being a financial advisor myself. They take like your $200 and they put it into a good performing mutual fund. For those of you who don't know what a mutual fund is just a stock that is made out of many stocks. So one from Microsoft, one from Google, one from Apple, one from, and it just combines them all into like this portfolio. And then you buy stock in that portfolio. That's what a mutual fund is. The reason people buy mutual funds is because if one of the businesses fails, there's a very good chance the other ones didn't fail. So mutual funds are more resistant to like heavy crashes. If you put all your money in one boat, like let's say you only bought Google stock and then Google crashes, you lose all your money. So people buy mutual funds so that they're diversified in the stock market. The downside is that let's say one company does really well Well, you're not really going to benefit from that as much because you didn't put all your money in that one company. You spread it around. But in general, the stock mutual funds will benefit from the overall growth of the stock market. So if you've never done this before, guys, take a minute and go look at the history of the Dow Jones or just of the stock market, and you will see very consistently the stock market has done nothing but rise over time. It's risen dramatically. It's risen dramatically over time. So yes, the stock market crash sometimes, it does. And then what it tends to do is recover and then continue to grow. Will it ever permanently crash? Probably not. And if it does, I guess you should have invested in gold and bullets. Maybe Bitcoin. Wait a second, we're not going to post, we're going to join. So yeah, if you want to be more involved with investing in stock, what you want to do is start watching videos about investing. You know what got me most interested in investing? When I was working for Coca-Cola, I would work for like 12 to 14 hours every day, every single day. My longest day was 18 hours. It was on the 4th of July. Absolute insanity. But really a remarkable time because I'd never experienced working that long before, and for an actual company too. So with Coca-Cola, what I did, since my work was very isolated, I didn't talk to anyone. Since I didn't really have to work with the manager, what I did was I took my iPod back then and I decked it out with books on finance. So I went on the Pirate Bay, which I haven't done in a long time. And what I did was I just downloaded every single top book on finance, loaded the iPod up, hundreds and hundreds of hours of books, and every day I just flipped it on, listened to the whole book. If the book was really good, I would listen to it a second time. Like, for example, I liked How to Make Friends and Influence People. That was a great book. It's classic because the information in the book is so, like, without being too technical, it's so timeless. The ideas in How to Make Friends and Influence People by, who wrote that one? I can't remember. I just can't remember. But that is a really classic book. Probably most people should read that book. But there was also The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. But those books were okay. But there were many financial books, including books by like Warren Buffett that talked about principles of investing, how people get wealthy. Older books, newer books. Do a lot of reading. This will teach you so much. Just doing the reading yourself, much more than like when you went to school and your stupid professor starts talking out their ass, and then you flip open your iPhone or you flip open your laptop and you're on Imgur or whatever you're on 9gag. You're not even listening. You know what I mean? You're at school, you're not even listening. You're on freaking 9gag. So, but you go for a long walk for 8 hours and just listen to a book on investing. You will learn so much so deeply, and it's very healthy too. So do an audiobook. If you don't like to sit down and read, do an audiobook. I think that's actually very good for guys. I think guys like to be more active than girls, physically active. So to go for a long walk and to listen to like a book on financial advice and investment is amazing for your health and for becoming intelligent. Monica says, show your build. Oh, I'm so sorry, Monica. When we land, I will show it. Have I read Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life? I have not read that. In fact, what I just told you guys to do with the iPod, I have not done that in a long time. Survivor says, body language is my favorite class of book. Daniel says, enjoy it, man. Put all your points on the combat tree first so you unlock double executions. Dale Carnegie? Was it Dale Carnegie? Okay. Maybe it was Dale Carnegie. I can't remember. Okay, here we go. So here's the build. We have Crit Eye, Earplugs, Agitator, Divine Blessing Secret, Health Boost, Crit Boost, Weakness Exploit, Focus, and Attack Boost and Recovery Up. Demi says, do you believe in gender equality? Sort of I do. Let me say this. If all the men, there's a bunch of dudes in the chat room right now, if all the men stood up today and said women can no longer vote, then women's ability to vote would just be over. That would be it. That would be the end of women voting. If all the women stood up today and said men no longer get to vote, what would happen is all the men would grab their guns and you'd shoot the women until the women lose. And that's the biggest difference between men and women. So is there a power difference between men and women? Yes. because there are no female militaries. There's no really important female generals out there. I don't know if there's any female generals out there. If there is, maybe let me know. We don't have female generals. We don't have female militaries. Women, they can be actually really incredible workers. I actually do believe that. Women can be really good at science and engineering. I've seen it myself in college, but they will never run militaries. And because of this, there is a power differential between men and women. So in business, can women be equal to men? Yeah, absolutely. How about in military? And so I will let you guys think about that one on your own. I don't actually think militarily women will ever be the same as men. I think that's because men are more capable of being psychopaths, but also men are just physically stronger than women. You know, when it comes to an actual fight, the guy's going to win every time. So I don't like to think of men and women as men versus women or women versus men, because if women didn't have children, you just wouldn't have society anymore. So you actually need each other. You do. You need each other. However, take that with a grain of salt, what I just said, because if the men decided we are having children, guess what? The women are having children, right? So humans have been around for a long time. We're so sensitive to rape and all that stuff. What do you think happened in the past, caveman times? Probably quite a lot of rape. What about the animal kingdom? There's an enormous amount of rape in the animal kingdom. Nobody cares about it. Everyone loves animals. Animals are so cute. Animals are insane, dude. Animals are fully psychopathic. They just do whatever they do. So it's just, there's a very serious power differentiation between men and women that feminists hate to talk about. They hate it. Men could stop women from voting today if they wanted to. If all the men stood up at the same time and said women aren't allowed to vote, women will have no more vote. It will just be over. There's no way for them to stop it. What are they going to do? They're going to pick up their AK-47s? All the guys are going to grab the AK-47s. They're going to be like, nope, this is how it's going now. So there is a clear power differentiation between them. But when it comes to, like, let's say engineering, let's say something real smart, maybe you need to do like a math problem. There are so many women who can outperform men with that kind of stuff. So I see men and women as different. I see men as more powerful than women. But that does not mean that we're in some competition with each other. Men and women are supposed to be on the same team. They're certainly different from each other. Men are psychopaths. Men are crazier than women. And they need to be, because you actually have to be able to fight off other men. And if you're not capable of fighting off other men, they're going to replace you, because that's what men do. And we try very hard to civilize men and tell, oh, don't invade, don't go to war, don't fight, don't take my stuff. We try very hard to civilize men. Stupid men get civilized. Stupid beta males. That's why I have to say. And you're going to be one of them if you buy into that kind of stuff. Don't listen to them. Rajab says, rape doesn't exist in the animal kingdom. Okay. I do think the MMA and the guns have proven that more often than not, when it comes to trained humans, women and men are pretty equal. I don't buy that at all. Not even a little bit. There were actually a lot of female generals and women pilots, just not many women special forces. Saying animals rape is like saying a lion murdered a zebra. Me smart, what are you talking about? I don't think firearms are required for this argument. Why don't you just say kick their booty and rape them? Well, nobody wants that, by the way. Nobody wants to live in a society where rape is normalized or good or healthy. Nobody wants that. That's considered an uncivilized society. But my point is just that there is a power differentiation between men and women. That is the point I'm making. Obviously, I'm not an advocate for that at all. Rape's bad. If somebody rapes, probably they should be put to death. Okay, so that's my feelings on rape. I'm for the death penalty. And if some guy's going around raping women and we know for a fact he's raping them, go ahead and kill him. I don't even care. He's forfeited his right to live. Choink says, not sure if it's true, but most women didn't want the right to vote because they would have to have the same responsibility as men. Men actually were the ones who voted for women's rights. Right. So that's one of the interesting things some of you guys probably didn't realize. There was actually a movement of women who didn't want to be basically like men. They wanted to be like women. And some of the reason, I'm not going to say all the reason, but some of the reason that the women's rights passed is because men wanted to have two votes. They wanted to have their vote and their wife's vote. So they considered it a form of power. I think of this as feminist men. I think that it still is ongoing. I think feminist men see feminism as a form of power for themselves. You know, trying to get allies and all that other stuff. Like, oh, we're going to get allied feminist men together. And it's ridiculous because I just find it very frustrating, but I understand it too. There's plenty of feminist men out there. Monica says, can I see the decorations after the hunt? Absolutely, Monica. Lion murdered a zebra. Bars. Nobody wants to shoot women and take their enfranchisement away either. I think there are actually some crazy dudes out there that want that. She is the most powerful pirate in ancient China. There's no legal terms in the Animal Kingdom. When's the last time a woman has raped a man? It actually does occur, so that is something I've looked up. There's different definitions for rape too, like was there penetration, or was it more like molestation, right? Like touched inappropriately. So women actually do perform some rape, and they will even be in the category of having penetrated the victim, but usually they will have used some kind of object, right? Obviously. Well, they have to, right? But yeah, so it's not that it never occurs, it's just that it doesn't occur often. It's something like 95% of the penetrative rape was caused by males to females, which is a huge difference. No dude death is too low, they should suffer, says Eeg. Is 2020 Olympics will be next year. Men's sports and women's sport is separated. Just think about that, I guess. Feminist men make me puke. The way they speak. OMG. We have women generals in Israel is bad. Every encounter they have almost always brings bad outcome due to women's gentle nature. I actually agree with a difference in the nature between men and women. This is why I call men like psychopaths. I think that women have a naturally more nurturing nature. Not every woman does. Some women do not. But I think it's more common in women. And then men have a more territorial nature. And I think that society tries very hard to civilize that out of you. If you were more territorial, you'd say, this is my shit, get out of here, right? You say that to people. But you're told now, if you say that, you're racist, you're anti-immigration, right? It was like the other thing I was talking about the other night. I realized one day, I would be 100% for all immigration all the time, as long as it's young women from another country. So you want to bring in all the young women? Go for it, man. You can have as much immigration as you want. That's not really what it's all about, is it, though? It's not really what it's all about. The problem is, most of the origin of the fear of immigration is going to come from, are there enough jobs for everyone? Am I now competing with a guy from another country for a job that already doesn't pay enough money? Stuff like that. And then, of course, actually, I'm going to look this up real fast because I have to know this one. I looked it up the other day. I have to know if it's true. Maybe I'm wrong on it. I have to know. Is there more male immigration than female? Males per 100 female ratio among immigrants. Actually, this is just like the earlier thing I was going to look up. This would take a while. So I'm on MPI, Migration Policy Institute. It says there's a ratio of 117 males to every 100 females. I don't remember what. I think I was reading like some sort of. It might have been Pew Research, but I could be wrong about that. I was reading some article the other day that was talking about how there was this huge inequality of the number of men who migrate to your country versus women. And I realized immigration is a lot of it is about territory. Men have territorial feelings. You say, this is mine. It's not yours. You can't have it. And I think this territory is very, the territorial feeling, again, is a very masculine feeling. And it comes from this sense of, I have to control resources if I'm going to have wives, right? So in the past, humans were like polygamous and all that stuff. You have to be able to control resources as a male, is what gives you access to females. And so if you start sharing resources and not in a good way, it's very bad for you. It's actually bad, again, for your sort of like genetic survival, if you want to use that term, right? So if I could be wrong, but if you believe in biological evolution, men should be very focused on having, access to resources and protecting those resources from competing males. And when you talk about issues like immigration, it's like, who is it that's always for all the immigration? The funny thing is, usually feminists are for like immigration so hard. They love it. They're like, yeah, we got to have all the immigration. It's great for us. And then actually what you find when you look at, I don't remember where I read this stuff, because I read so many articles. I don't remember where I looked this up. The majority of men do not actually like immigration. Did you know that? So obviously there's liberal men, there's feminist men out there, but the majority of men oppose immigration. And what was crazy is that an even larger margin of women wanted immigration, and we have a net gain of men during our immigration, not women. It's usually young men who immigrate to your country these days, not young women. And I was just thinking about how all of this mattered. I was like, what if it was just a ton of young, sexy women coming from other... And I realized, wow, everyone would be for immigration. I contemplated perhaps if the feminist women would change their minds about it. Maybe they'd be like, oh man, I don't like that now. There's too many women now. You know what I mean? Is a very, 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 very interesting concept to me. And I like to think about this kind of stuff. Jojo says, I think men and women develop their intelligence in very different aspects. Absolute says, just think about it. What are your views on men paying 3 times more on car insurance? There's a reason for that. Is because men actually have more accidents between the ages of 18 and 25, I believe. And this is because men drive more recklessly. Does being a sperm donor fulfill my duties? Fulfill your duties? That's a great question. I guess, in a way it does. It is actually a very interesting question. I get the feeling that the guys who are sperm donors probably do not regret giving their sperm away and thinking, yeah, I've had like 300,000 children out there. If you are a man, when the Titanic is sinking, whether you are a feminist or not, you still need to stay and the women and children get to leave. Right, well, that's because here's the thing. You guys have heard me talk about some concepts probably that are very not PC at all, about women having children and all this stuff. But the reason we had a society that successfully did that is because the women had children, but the men sacrificed themselves for the women. There's an exchange. There's an actual exchange. And we don't have that now. We just say, oh man, I had sex with a hot girl with the red hair, right? Oh man, she's hot. I can't wait to frick her. So it was a very different concept back then. Back then you had duties and responsibilities and a sense of honor and all those things, right? So you had those kind of concepts, and your job was to die protecting the women and children, and you were a team. The woman was on your side, she married you, she's your wife, and then you die protecting her. So there was a sort of exchange back then, and I think it worked for a very long time. And now we're in the future, and we have this thing called, quote, progress, and it's not progress at all. A lot of it's just degeneracy. That's all it is. Okay, I get to go on Twitter, or not Twitter, I get to go on, what are those stupid dating sites? Tinder. I get to go on Tinder, and, we're going to go have sex. I don't care about this girl. It's just for the sex, right? That's degeneracy. It's been around for a long time. It's not new. Adultery and all that stuff. Religion figured that stuff out so long ago. And they're like, no, we don't allow this. And it's like, why don't you allow it? It's because the degeneracy causes the breakdown of the society. When anything that causes the breakdown of the family unit, in my opinion, destroys the society over time. You cannot have a destroyed family unit. It's probably the most dangerous thing for the long-term health of your country. So it's funny because I left religion and I'm like, woohoo, we can do anything now. There's no rules. There's no 10 commandments. Anything goes as long as both people consent. Anything goes. But then you learn as you get older. I'm 31 now, right? So you learn as you get older and older, and you think more and more and more like, why did these old guys invent the religion in the first place? What they're doing is creating a rule book on what makes a society healthy and survive. That's the whole point of it. That's the whole reason it exists 2,000 years later. It's because it's the thing that works. It turns out that being loyal to each other in a marriage where you raise children together and you commit to each other and you sacrifice to each other works really well. It works really well for raising a family and for having a stable family and happy children who have a better life, the resources they need to, succeed on their own as well, right? Because obviously when you come from a difficult background, you're more likely to have personality conflicts, and you're more likely to have drug abuse, and you're more likely to have committed a crime, like, for example, stealing. Woo! Still alive. KO'd though. Monster Hunter channel talks about sperm donations. Alfred says, so during a crisis like this, us should be helping though. What? Is having different armor sets a thing, or do you have one armor set? Oh, always mixed. Mixed armor sets all the way. Can you do a live playing Ocarina of Time? I could do another game probably. No tax equals no government support. I agree. You don't want to get rid of all taxes. Very often the conversation is about what is the right amount of taxes. And in general, the left and the right will disagree about what the correct amount is. And normally this is okay. Like, we still get along. The left and the right still get along. I would say most recently, though, the left and the right have reached points where they've reached these conflicts where there's no solution. Like, there's no getting along anymore. And honestly, I think the left and the right, what they really want is a civil war. They would like to split into two countries. They're like Rome. That's what Rome did. Do you remember history? Rome split into two places. They had two emperors, and when one part of Rome is falling, the other part of Rome doesn't want to help because you don't share the same beliefs and you're not part of the same government anymore. So that is the left and the right these days. We have these ideological differences that are so large that there's no fixing it. Concepts like objective morality versus subjective morality. Concepts like feminism, to be honest. Concepts like feminism. I've decided I don't support it at all, even a little bit. I don't believe in it. It's a made-up word. It's always been men and women together, not men versus women, which is exactly what feminism seeks to do. Feminism seeks to turn women into men rather than into mothers, which you cannot have. You have to have 3 children or more. What do you think about trans rights, degenerate or egenerate? Again, I like the idea of living in a country where you do actually have some freedoms. So this is very similar to the question I got asked at the beginning of the live stream. Somebody asked, when it comes to religion, I came from a very religious country, he said. And he said, what do you think of that? And I think that religion can go too far. So basically, I see your life choices can kind of go between two bars on an axis, right? Two, like a, whatever you want to call it. You can head towards sort of like hedonism, where all of your choices and your lifestyle is built around the concept of enjoying life as much as you can. There's the opposite direction, which is survivalism. And one of my realizations is that there are some key things you cannot ignore. For example, you cannot ignore having children. If you want to talk about transsexuality, homosexuality, all that other stuff, you could put it anywhere on that bar, depending on what your opinion is of it. But what you cannot do is skip having children. So I would say I don't support mutilating your, like your ball sack, for example, because you're going to lose your sperm. You can't have kids anymore. So if you're mutilating your healthy body so that you can try to be a different gender, I don't agree with that. Oh no, I'm evil. Aaron says, aren't the Democrats trying to put in money for illegals in the stimulus bill? Oh, they've tried so much. It's ridiculous. Ad says, even in my country, the minister released all the criminal from jail during the plague. These corona and criminal hunting in my country. We had some of that happening in America too, actually, believe it or not. I believe the argument for it is that the jail cells are basically like incubators for the coronavirus. And so the criminals are like, you're going to leave us in here and we're definitely going to die. So I can kind of understand that, especially if maybe their crime was like maybe drug dealing or something. If you let them go, I don't see the problem. Obviously, I don't think they're releasing like violent criminals. Maybe in your country, I have no clue. Riddle says, something that annoys me about religion is that many people just follow it so that they can go to heaven. Well, yeah, but also that is similar to religion. So why do you have I'm sorry, not religion. That's very similar to politics. That's what I meant to say. So why do you follow the political beliefs that you have? Very often, the reason people are following certain political ideologies is because you believe you're going to have sort of like a utopia, heaven on earth. You believe you're going to have heaven on earth. If we can just all be equal to each other, we'll have heaven on earth. There'll be progress toward what? Toward what? And it's always the same thing. It's progress toward a utopia. That's what they believe they can create. They believe they can create paradise. Sorry about that, Sire. Here you go. Sorry about that, Monica. Sorry, Sire. Here's the build. So the belief is that you can have heaven on earth, and you never really get to have that because reality kicks in, and you have to play by the rules of reality. I actually think the people who are happiest are people who really study what reality is, and then they try to mimic reality to fit in it and have both some of the hedonism, but also everything you need for the survivalism. Robert says, is Monster Hunter World's UI good to you? Why or why not? The UI is really bad because they do not put the decorations in alphabetical order. When you're choosing armor, you cannot visibly see the armor until you scroll over it. It's just not not well designed. It's poorly designed. David says, so my sister is going to be paying less even though I have had no accidents, no speed tickets, and no parking tickets. I'm even a Boy Scout. I'm still going to pay more even though my sister just started. That's right, David. Get ready to enjoy that privilege. Well, and you're probably like me, David, because I've been driving since I was actually for a very long time. I think I've had 12 years or something. Zero accident. No, it's been 13 years. I've had zero accidents. I've not had even one accident. I'm a skilled driver because I'm always alert when I drive. Always. And I follow. What I do is I create a path, and I memorize the pathway between my 2 points of destination. And then I'm very alert and I never break my rules. So I create a set of rules so that I do very, very few lane changes. And then I just always follow that path. So anyways, I've never been in a car crash in 13 years. And just like you, I had to pay extra when I was younger to the car insurance companies. Whale says, that's not evil, man. We're all entitled to an opinion. I think considering how overpopulated the world is, reproduction does not really need to be a prime human directive. Whale, human reproduction always needs to be a prime human directive. Now, if you don't believe that it's a prime human directive, you're going to go bye-bye, see? If you're worried about overpopulation, you should do some research, and what you'll learn is that in almost every single developed country, no one's having families anymore. You're having like one kid, maybe 1.5 kids. And some people still do have children, like people from Mexico. And guess what? They have traditional family values. Good for them. Everyone should. You've got China's very overpopulated, but that's changing. They know about the overpopulation problem. They're reducing the number of children they have. Africa is like this whole other thing. They're still farmers out there and they have like bazillions of children, I guess is what I understand. Islam still has children because they're told in their book to have children. And so they're doing fine. They're doing great. And I think there was a time where I found that annoying. I'm so on their side at this point. I 100% agree with them. You should be having children, and you should be looking for a wife who will have children with you. And if you find a woman who's like, no, I'm going to be your husband, she can be your husband, but then you better go get a girlfriend who has babies for you. That's all I have to say. And tell her, look, we're going to have kids or we're going to break up, one or the other. And then what else was I going to say? Overpopulation. Oh, right. So we talked about this earlier in the live stream. We were talking about whether the world was really populated, and you've got Japan significantly reducing the number of children that they have. Significantly having the number of children. So you've got Denmark. You've got, right, so those are the, what do they call them? Bernie Sanders is always quoting them. You've got Denmark, and they don't have enough children, so the government's trying to get people to have children. The government's actually got programs to try and get people to have children. All over the world, people are giving up on having children. So you might believe that the world's overpopulated because some environmentalist with smelly hair told you that humans have to disappear. Feel free to join that group and disappear with the rest of them. Competent and competitive men are going to continue having children and competing to have children and controlling resources. You want to be part of the second group, the group that is still having children. You don't want to be told, hey, you need to get out of here. There's too many of you, right? The guys who don't listen to that are going to continue to exist, and the guys who do listen to that are going to disappear. That's what's going to happen. Having no children screws the older generation. We are going to be hugely unpopulated. Overpopulation is not academically valid. Little tips because bear with movement. Donovan says, funnily enough, I don't end up using element dual blade. We have accessible land to accommodate up to 35 billion. Overpopulation. So overpopulation, usually the problem is actually pollution and do we have enough energy? I believe we can fix both of those problems. I really do. Humans need to continue to evolve with our technology. We need better technology, and we need plans, and we need people to all work together on it. Okay, so when people complain about overpopulation, it's not actually that there's physically too many people. There might be too many people in California. It's because everyone wants to live there. So you will go to California, and then everyone will start to gripe. All the liberals will go, oh, we're overpopulated. Come over to Missouri. There's plenty of room over here. But they don't want to. They don't want to move to Missouri. They want to move, they want to live in California on the beach. So you go to the place where everyone else wants to go, and then you suddenly think the world's overpopulated. There is just vast quantities of empty land where I live. Vast quantities of empty land. Houses that you can buy for $50,000 where I live. 50,000 is very affordable actually. We just moved her parents into a $60,000 home. It's a decent home. You could have a family there. It's not like the shanties that you move into in California for like $1,000 a month. You don't even own it. You just rent it. So everyone wants to move to beautiful California and then claim that the whole world's overpopulated. No, it's just California's overpopulated. Everyone wants to move to Hawaii, one of the most expensive places to move to in the United States, where there's barely any houses and it's just a small island. And there's all this feuding over actually race. So you have the native Hawaiians don't want any white people there. There's actually quite a few Japanese in Hawaii who don't want white people there. And then white people have to be like, oh, I'm sorry, this is not my island. I'm white. So there's not enough land over there. And there's all this. They believe that the world is overpopulated. You got New York. New York is so densely populated and they're spreading the coronavirus like crazy. They think the world. But then you go into the middle of America and there's just vast quantities of land. There's so much empty land and room for people. So much room for people. Chaz says California isn't overpopulated. The land is overpriced. Well, okay, so you can make that argument as well. Maybe I was just making an assumption, but I'm sure certain areas truly are just, they're very dense and you can't drive, you can't get a parking spot, etc. You see what I'm saying? What do you think about when men hit back women? You should not be violent to women. I 100% disagree with violence toward women. Oh wait, he said hit back. So I think what Jamal's asking, if a woman hits me, should I be able to hit her back? The truth is, there's a lot of men who say if they want equality, then we get to hit them back. I honestly am not looking for that kind of relationship. If my wife hit me, I would probably stop her from hitting me, but I would never hit her back. I just wouldn't. And that is not a sign of, that's not a sign of unfair inequality. She has power over me. Is actually almost like, it's almost the other way around, isn't it? A little bit. It's like saying, you attacking me is so insignificant to me that you can hit me and I don't care. And that's kind of what it means. But maybe if you're a little guy and you're dating like a huge girl and she's like way stronger than you, maybe that's a bigger problem for you. That's not a problem for me. I'm physically much stronger than my wife. Males in Japan are too freaking beta. Yeah, I have no ideas why people would want to come over to California. Genuinely mind-boggling. Ooh, wow, beaches and unaffordable houses. Ooh, wow, crowded beaches and crowded homes. Let's join the Silver Rathalos guy. California is not overpopulated, but places in California are expensive to live in, and all the jobs exist there, so you have to live in an expensive area. Kessie says, everyone disappears, dies. A person doesn't keep living inside their kids. When you're gone, you're gone. Stop acting like reproducing keeps you alive. What's the end? Kessie, feel free to have no children. Feel free to have no children. The world's overpopulated, right? You don't live through your children, after all. Think about it, Kessie. You only exist right now because your ancestors had sex and had you and raised you. You had a huge lineage of ancestors that goes way back thousands of years, and they have been breeding like rabbits all the way up to this day so that you could exist. And now you're going to be with your wiener tucked between your legs saying, you don't live in your kids. You literally exist and get to, rub your balls and watch me play Monster Hunter badly because your ancestors gave birth to you. Now, if you don't appreciate that, feel free to disappear. It's like what I've been saying. You can disagree with me. What I've learned is that my beliefs are in alignment with nature and yours aren't. So feel free to disagree with me and have no children. I'm going to have children. I'm going to have children and I'm going to play Monster Hunter. Let's try to join this one. Do you think pedophiles get what they deserved in prison? That's a tough one. I think that people are especially disgusted by pedophilia, and I think that we are tougher on pedophiles than we are on, like, let's say maybe just a regular rapist, because we hate them extra. There's a little extra to what they're doing. Well, anyways, I think they do tend to be punished a little harder, and I think that's appropriate, and I think that's it. Yeah, I feel like I wish pedophiles would actually seek help. I wish they would seek help. That's what I wish. Because I really don't understand them. I don't. So if you are liking maybe a girl who's just younger and you find her attractive, you're like, wow, she's hot. That's normal. And there's rules for who you can have sex with. Like, you can't have sex with a girl under the age of 17 in Missouri. Well, our ancestors were probably having sex with girls the moment they hit puberty. Okay, so that was probably normal for our ancestors. And there's still countries where you can have sex with women younger than 17. I was told recently in Sweden you can have sex with a 15-year-old girl and it will not be rape. I could be wrong about that. Maybe there's something I don't understand about it. I heard that was something in Japan too, and maybe they changed the laws recently on that. So maybe you're just living in the wrong country in terms of age. But wanting to have sex with somebody who you find attractive is not wrong. That is your genes looking for genetic markers for health. That is natural. If you're breaking the law, that's you being an idiot, especially if you're doing it in an abusive or if you rape. The abusive way of rape, right? We have concepts like child grooming, totally against it. But the thing is, you shouldn't feel ashamed for feeling sexual urges towards somebody who's maybe a little too young. I think everyone understands this too. But if she's hit puberty, she's hit puberty, and you're just lying to yourself if you don't find. That's why we have terms like jailbait, right? We have terms like jailbait to describe a girl who is sexually attractive, but you're legally not allowed to do anything about it. So we have terms like jailbait. Now, here's what I don't understand. Pedophiles will often be attracted to somebody who has not hit puberty. Wow, I have no clue what that is about. That's crazy. And in my mind, all I can think is that they're like, something's not right. Something's not all there for them. You know what I mean? That's all I can think. I don't know how else to describe it. Because, it's easy to just say, this is evil, this is good, and I understand words like good and evil, why we made them up. We made them up to describe certain people and certain behaviors. So, you could describe pedophilia as evil. But when you actually go in to start working on the problem, what do you do? I wish they would just seek help. They would realize they have a problem and seek help. That's what I wish. But obviously they don't. And then they prey on children, which is really unacceptable. Vita says, interesting fact, there are pedophiles which thinks that chemical castration is still not useful as they thought since the pleasure of younglings is a psychological thing. Yeah, I don't know if I support chemical castration. It's all weird, isn't it? It's kind of like some people who say we should cut their dick off, right? Oh, you raped somebody, we should cut your dick off. I mean, what if they were lied about? What if they never raped anyone and we accidentally cut some innocent dude's dick off? That's a big problem, right? So it's definitely a tough thing. But let's say you had a certain case. I don't know, man. It's really wild. I feel it's weird. I feel more comfortable with the death penalty than I do with cutting a guy's dick off. There's like a certain level of torture to it that's, I don't know, maybe killing somebody is more, I don't know, maybe because it's such a large transaction, it's more final and more understandable in a certain way. Really weird. Even in the US, some states have age of consent at 16. Wow. Chemical castration is cruel and unusual. Right. I agree. It depends on your gameplay. You have a comfort build. Most meta builds, they should be imprisoned for acting on what they do. And I think that's what we do. We typically put them in prison. We could always cut the accuser's genitals. See, and that's what I was saying too. Sometimes people will say, okay, we will just cut his dick off and that will solve it. It's tough to reach that point where you're like, yeah, let's dismember this person who did this thing. It's a really terrible thing. 3 children because Monster Hunter World Quest only allow 4 players. See, it's kind of like, yeah, I don't know. It's really tough. I don't know how I feel on it. It's something I'm still considering. Japan's age of consent is 13? Is that real? Jesus. Let's go ahead and put on the temporal mantle. Wow, we're already at 2 hours, guys. Time to go. Hey, what do you guys think is the hardest weapon to master? My opinion, Charge Blade. 13, age of consent. That's really young. Wonder why it's so low. I could see myself agreeing with 16, but 13's so young. What is the best support hunting horn? Whichever one gives attack up large. I guess I'd have to say the Raging Brachydios hunting horn is probably best for defense if that was your question. In Texas, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure there's a law that as long as both parties are less than 4 years apart and consensuality isn't illegal, and you can also buy condoms at any age here. See, I don't know anything about I don't know anything about that. Nigeria age of consent is 11? Dude, there's no way, that's crazy. What do I think about abortion? I support abortion. I think also, though, that abortion is a type of murder, and people who think that it's not are lying to themselves, or they're just saying whatever they have to say in order to keep it legal. But I think pretty obviously the whole point of abortion is to get rid of this thing that is definitely growing into a sentient living human being. And the goal of it isn't to remove some irrelevant, like cells. The point of it is to get rid of that human. So to me, it is like a form of murder. It's definitely a form of murder. And, if you want to get rid of your children, then it's kind of like, do I think that, do I feel that suicide should be illegal? No. Suicide, you can't make it illegal. It's impossible. It's something that people are going to elect to do no matter what. I feel kind of similar about abortion. One thing I do feel strongly about, though, the government in no way, shape, or form should ever be funding abortion. That's ridiculous. I can't believe you can have a government be spending tax dollars on abortion. It's the most ridiculous. You could do whatever you want. You can have like condoms, fully socialized condoms, fully socialized birth control pills, anything you want. But abortion is the dumbest thing I've ever heard the government spending money on. Thanks, Nate. So basically what Nate's saying is when you use Super Chat to make a donation, YouTube actually takes 30%. When you make a donation through Streamlabs, which you can find a link to in the description, Streamlabs is basically just PayPal. So you're just making a straight donation, and much more of the donation actually goes to me. YouTube's sneaky, man. They take 30% without telling you. They're just like, yeah, here you Super Chat. Also, you're giving us your money. You're making a donation to multi-billion-dollar company Google. Kids are irresponsible and get into pregnancy. The national age of consent remains 13. 81, I'm good, but then my family has always been against me. Japan's federal laws put consent at 13, but prefectural laws vary and can raise consent up to 18 years old. Oh, interesting. Okay. That helps us understand better. Thanks, Yusuki. Legalized prostitution would be good enough. No need to fund abortion. Actually, that's a very interesting topic as well. Prostitution. I haven't actually 100% made my mind up on that either, but it's a very interesting subject. People fear that having prostitution be illegal is what causes like pimps and violence and sex trafficking to occur, and their belief is that if you just made it legal, all of this would go away. But that's not necessarily true, and it's not necessarily healthy for society to legalize. I don't know. I think I would be for legalizing it. I've thought about it for a while. It's a very, prostitution's been around for a long time. I feel like if we fully legalize prostitution, it could become like a very modern thing. Prostitution, I think it could become something that doesn't have to be so horrifying. But yeah, I don't know. I'm like on the fence on that one. Maybe I need more time to think about it. There's pros and cons to it. Let me say that. There's pros and cons for both sides. So Chad says, you would rather a child be born to foolish children themselves? Unknown pregnancy is a thing. Have y'all studying Raging Brachydios move? Abortion, in my opinion, is wrong no matter what. Oh, I don't agree with that at all. So let's say that, because people always use this example, let's say your wife was raped by some asshole, right? So some asshole, you're married to this person who you love. Okay, imagine somebody you really love. You're married to her, you live a happy life together. And some asshole, some, ridiculous, gross man takes your wife and rapes her. And she's pregnant with his baby now. You gonna go to sleep every night with your wife and her baby? Your wife and his baby? You gonna do that every night? You're such a cuck if you do that. Kill the baby. You could be like, he killed the baby, okay, by creating it without her agreement, without her consent. He killed it. Whatever you want to do, you can throw him in jail for killing the baby. Get rid of the stupid baby. Don't have your wife carry another man's baby. You're an idiot if you do. You think they would care in nature? Like, okay, let's say you're the alpha lion of a lion pride, and some other male lion impregnates one of your women or whatever, one of your female partners. And then your job now is to kill the baby lion. That's your job now. And nature doesn't fuck around with this kind of stuff. They just get right to it. They know exactly how it all works. But humans are like, oh, you're going to kill the baby. That would be bad. Dude, we kill each other all the time. How do you think your country came into existence? Your country exists because a bunch of guys got together and killed a different bunch of guys. That's how it all works. That's how it's worked for a long time. We're so civilized, it's bad for us. We're so civilized, we don't like to admit certain things like, I think I'd rather break up with my wife than watch her bring another man's baby to term. Unless you're into that kind of stuff, I guess. I guess there's all guys who are like into that kind of stuff. I don't know. Really weird. I don't think you would. I think that, we joke about it. Oh yeah, I'm a cuck or whatever. We joke about it, but if your wife actually was raped and you had to go to sleep next to her for 9 months and watch her belly grow with the rapist baby, dude, it would be the most traumatizing, horrible thing I can think of. And somebody in the chat's going to be like, well, I was a rape baby. Great, I'm glad it worked out for you and your mother. Vast majority of cases, kill that baby. If the mom really wants the baby, maybe she's like a single mom or something and dad doesn't care. Whatever. People can have that option, but in the majority of the cases, just, get the tongs. Get the vacuum cleaner. It's time to do a little baby cleaning. If the baby isn't tethered physically to the mother with no chance of separation, it isn't a murder. Jared says, I think if prostitution was legal, prostitutes should carry it with them for their entire life, perhaps with the facial tattoos designed to be hard to remove. No, come on, man. That's too far. That's way too far. A lot of women have had... I think it's true that men prefer women who are virgins. All right, I totally get that. Not everyone prefers that or cares, first of all. And if you prefer virgins, then just go get into a religion and date a virgin woman, okay? So you don't have to, punish women who have gotten into prostitution, which is like a dirty word, so they're trying to relabel it sex work. It's prostitution. I hate it when people try to do... They get really clever with the words. I hate that shit. They try to rename global warming climate change because they realized nobody listens to global warming, so they're like, we'll just rename it. Prostitution's prostitution. I just died. It's not sex work. Sex work is is this new way of saying prostitution that's meant to make it sound more, digestible? No, your girlfriend's a prostitute. She's not a sex worker. You know what I mean? But anyways, you don't need to punish her. If you are some guy who's a real stickler for having a virgin wife, just like all the religions are very obsessed with having a virgin wife, go join a religion and have a virgin wife. You don't need to punish everyone else. So that's the beauty of living in a country where supposedly you're free. But seriously, think of it like a dating market. And I think what guys will often say is well, they've all had sex. And it's well, then you don't, if you want a virgin wife, you're going to have to really compete with other men for it because it's a rarer, it's a rare commodity. And maybe women should be considering staying virgins and getting a more competitive husband as a result of it. So if it turns out that men really do want virgin wives, then there should be some highly successful men going, hey, I don't pay for, the yucky prostitute wives. I pay for the virgin wives, right? So that's a natural market occurring, or an exchange occurring. But if it turns out that these super successful men don't actually care about women who have had sex with other men, then, it's not really to her benefit to have never had sex with anyone else. It's a complex issue, obviously. But like I said, you could join a religion, you'll find women who haven't had sex. Plenty of religious girls out there. Untainted product, says Chad. As soon as I saw that thumbnail, I knew the chat was in for a ride. The left is amazing at Orwellian newspeak. What's your opinion on people working in the porn industry? Good for them. They've found a job where, I don't know about all of them, but some of them probably earn quite a lot of money for doing something we all enjoy doing anyways. That's the funniest part. Like, we all enjoy having, well, most of us enjoy having sex, and they just get paid. Am I going to be thrown off? Wow. And they just get paid a ton of money to do it. Some of them get paid a ton of money. That's the, I'm not perfectly informed about how the porn industry works. I think that the porn industry is changing dramatically because of, like, this stuff like My OnlyFans or whatever, right? So this is like a decentralized platform where you're the owner of the content on the content site, and then you can be paid in donations or whatever. So it's actually very interesting how probably there's going to be a lot of money shifting into the porn industry for girls who open up OnlyFans pages. It's really interesting because it's a new technology, it's a new strategy for creating content. But I think that your question was, how do I feel about porn stars, basically, and fine, good for them. If they're making a bunch of money having sex, it's kind of like me making a bunch of money playing video games, right? I'm not really doing anything too important. If you're mad at them and you're like, oh, I would never date you, then don't date them. Go get a non-porn, girlfriend. Get a girlfriend who hasn't done porn. Easy. So that's my feelings on it. I don't mind. There are husbands that can accept the child because it wasn't the wife's fault or the unborn child's fault, TGE. Yeah, I've heard about that many times, right? Like, so I was formerly Catholic. I went on the pro-life marches. I was all about the logic behind the never abort a child stuff. I'm no longer Catholic. Fuck all of that. If a child is a result of rape, I'm 100% in support of killing that baby. Snap that baby out, man. Get the tongs. I'll do it myself. I don't even need a doctor's license. You whip those legs open. We'll probably need some tongs and some vacuum cleaners. Okay? I'll do it myself. Stupid that people argue that stuff. It's one of the weakest pro-life arguments I've ever heard. Every time a pro-lifer tries to defend rape babies, they sound so stupid. Even when I was Catholic and I heard that argument, I understood how cringeworthy and bad the argument was, which is very often why your pro-choice opponent goes straight over to it, because they know how weak you sound with that argument. Whip that baby out. If you want to feel guilty about killing it, blame the father, okay? Blame and by the father, I mean the rapist. Blame the rapist for killing your baby. For killing his baby. It's not even your baby. You didn't ask for it, he put it in you. Okay? Kill that baby. Easy. Easy decision. I just joined. What is this convo? I don't know how many jobs Johnny Sins had. A lawyer, doctor, soldier, and so many more. He really is the ultimate alpha male. He must have gone to school so many times. We got to help him with this student debt. And in the future, maybe Johnny Sins won't be a porn star on Pornhub. Maybe Johnny Sins will be some My OnlyFans male or something like that. And you will have women who donate to him or something like that. So that is probably the future of pornography. Stuff like that. Subscribe to GE, OnlyFans for buff body armor set streams. Hey, thanks very much, Edgy Boy, for becoming a member. Did we just lose? Oh my god. In nature, it's generally preferred for the mother to survive. At least she can have another chance to try again. Oh, I think you guys are talking about abortion in the case where the mother's life is at risk. I find it often very annoying, because I think, again, when people are having an abortion, I think very often they don't like to think that they're killing a baby, even though that's exactly what they're doing. They either go through a lot of psychological loops where they'll be like, it's not a baby, it's a clump. It's a baby. That's why you're getting rid of it. That's the whole point. You don't get rid of clumps of cell anywhere else on your body. You get rid of the one clump of cells that conveniently also turns into a human being. So I believe women should be allowed to do this, but I think we should call it exactly what it is. It is murder. You want to kill a baby. That's what you want. You want to kill it. You're not conveniently removing it. You're not putting it over in a different spot while it continues to develop into a human. You're killing it. That's the whole point. And so I've been on both sides of the abortion argument. I've been a Catholic, pro-life Catholic, but I've also now been a non-religious, non-Catholic pro-choicer. I know what it is. I'm going to be more honest about it than the average. Because people who are really pro-choice, they will never admit that it's murder, because then maybe some legal argument would arrive like, okay, well, the government's job is to protect life. Government's job is to protect a human person, right? So if you were to admit that it was a type of person, then you would probably lose your arguments and lose your access to abortion. So you have to lie about it and say that it's not a human. Oh, that's not a human. That's just some clump of cells. It's so stupid, man. You must be so dumb to believe that, or so totally devoted to having access to abortion, which probably you are very devoted to it. You want to keep your options open, right? Like, maybe I want to have sex, but also if I get pregnant, I don't want that thing, right? But it's not a human. It's just, yeah, it's just this arbitrary clump of cells I'm getting rid of. Oh, please. So stupid that people buy into that argument. It's so fake. It's like when somebody has committed murder and you know they have, but you don't have any evidence of it. It's very similar to that, right? Like everyone gets all worked up over the O.J. Simpson trial. There's that whole Carol Baskin in the Tiger King movie or docuseries now. So you know they did it, but it's like you can't do anything about it. It feels very much like that. Like, oh please, is anyone really buying this? That's how it feels. It's so silly. Even religions such as Islam allows abortion due to rape. What do you think about guys? Gays, how simping. Uh, Alice Bardes, I don't know what you meant by that question. Yusika says, let's be reasonable. Johnny Sins would attract more male loyalists than female fans. What do we got here? Oh, I don't, nothing, huh? Okay, let's go ahead and post a quest. Today, I'm just using a lot of greatsword, aren't I? We're just using a lot of greatsword. I just watched your guides. I didn't know you were this down the rabbit hole. This is a fever dream. he caught he caught me between a goop blast and his right hook. What? The word is poetess. It's just a poetess. No one wants to kill a child, GE, is saving a person from a screwed life attributed to parents not prepared. There should be evaluations in place and walls in place to know emotional decisions. No one wants to kill a child. Well, I agree with that. That's why we get so crazy with our language to try and avoid the truth. Look, if you want to kill your baby, fine, go kill your baby. There should be laws that say she can kill the baby. Like I said, I'm actually pro-choice. But I hate it when people they go through every psychological loop they can to try and ignore what is actually taking place. So when you are actually and it's just like when somebody justifies any bad thing they've done. It's one of the forms of, it's when you're trying to rationalize your behavior, essentially. So, oh man, I've got to do this. I've got to do this. Here's the reason why. And here's why I'm not a bad guy. Just be honest with what's going on. Here's the thing developing inside of you that will definitely be a human being. And you're definitely destroying it because it's going to be a human being. Just be honest about it. And you can still have access to abortion or whatever. Again, I'm not trying to restrict access to it, but I don't like the dishonesty. It's one of the things that drives me crazy in politics too. One of the things that drives me crazy. There's so much word engineering in politics, and people never really say what they want to say. People never say exactly how they feel. They do all this careful word engineering to get what they want and to make you agree with what they want, but they never just straight up telling you what's going on. You know what I mean? Like when religions are passing the basket around for money, they don't say, "Oh, by the way, our priest or whatever, he lives on a $3 million ranch house, and all this money goes to him. It doesn't actually go to God." They don't say that kind of stuff. They just say, God needs you to tithe. You know what I mean? It's so dishonest. God doesn't actually need you to tithe. If God really needed money, he could snap his fingers and fill anyone's pocket with money. Because he's God, right? He's all powerful. But he's got to have your money, right? No, it's actually the preacher who needs your money. And then he buys himself a private jet plane. So people are just so dishonest all the time. But when it comes to like issues like abortion, we're so dishonest. Because we don't like to think about what's really happening. What is really going on. And this goes back to this concept I was talking about with people who do not like to live in reality. People really like to avoid reality. Reality is difficult. Reality is full of grief. And we sometimes deal with that by pretty much staying out of it. We live in our imaginations, or we come up with rationalizations or word engineering that helps us avoid what's going on. You're getting rid of something that's turning into a human being because you don't want the human being to exist. What else do you call that? So if I was the clump of cells getting ready to be aborted, I would call that you're killing me, right? So, and I have 11 siblings, okay? So I can imagine how easy it would be for one of my siblings to not exist. It's not like a existential kind of question. It's a very real reality for me. Yeah, I could have siblings that just don't exist because mom and dad decided, abortion. So to see them be alive now and be like they were uninterrupted from being developing into a human child and then into a adult and all that, they were uninterrupted versus interrupted is very obvious. It's no confusion what's going on. But again, I think that a great deal of there's two reasons for all of the word engineering and the lying and the confusion and the dishonesty. One, people don't like to admit it because it's one of those kind of like dark truths. And the other one, too, is if they did admit that it was the purpose of abortion was to kill a person, if they admitted that, get rid of a person, whatever language is more comfortable for you, if they admitted that, they might start to lose their access to abortion because you would then have people stepping in and saying, well, the law protects people. Anyways, Snowy Leopard says, being a rape and cancer survivor, my husband is great and understanding. TGE. Being a rape and cancer survivor, my husband is great and understanding. Okay. I don't really know how to respond to that. Alravijin says, glad you like Monster Hunter stories. Sid He says, world is too PC today for its own good. The world is very politically correct. And I think that the political correctness is a side effect of people living a life of luxury, maybe. But also I think it's a very large product of basically people in power, elitists, who are struggling to maintain control versus each other. So they're both fighting for power. And so they will say whatever is necessary to get votes. And they start to say some really wild things, like you're born with the right to health care. No, you're not. Well, you're definitely not born with the right to health care. That makes no sense at all. Now, it would be very nice to have a right to health care. I do believe in that. I wouldn't say a right, a privilege. I would say it would be very nice to live in a society where the society takes care of your health care. But born with the right to health care is just a made-up idea by a guy who wants to win a whole bunch of power. He's trying to become president, right? So it's an attempt for power. And it's like, it's such a lie. You're not born with that stuff. It just, where's the health care when you're born? Where is it on your body? It doesn't exist. You're born with you're born with a placenta or whatever, right? That's about it. You're born naked. That's it. So it's so silly. So we do a lot of living in our imagination because you have people who are warring over power, and they start to train people to believe ideas. They start to educate you, quote, trying to get you to believe ideas that are false just because they want to have power. When it comes to religion, is it so bad to believe in my own way? As Orthodox Christian, we do believe in a slightly different way, but I don't deny the church takes advantage of believers. Alright, is he going to go do the thing? So one of the best friends is an only child, but what happens is when she was in the womb, she consumed the other baby. Would that be murder? Oh, it's definitely murder. No, that's not murder. It just happened. That's an easy question. Snowy says, because he would accept the child into the family. I don't fully understand what you're talking about, Snowy Leopard. Maybe you could explain what you mean a little bit better. This guy roll needs. He says, heard that Canadian government making an app that alert you when you're near someone that has corona. Do you think that can be applied in the United States or elsewhere? Yeah, so this is a really interesting subject because basically what you're talking about is the government is capable of tracking you wherever you're at. And some people are cool with that. Some people believe that this is too much like secret police. I'm a technological guy. I like technology. I like to think that the government's main interest is in protecting its citizens. So I'm in favor of it. I'm okay with it. And if we find out, like we often have, that the government was secretly doing bad stuff with our information, we should be punishing those politicians later. But starting off the bat, if you can have enough trust in your government, which generally Americans don't have a lot of trust in their government, I don't see why we shouldn't be using technology to its fullest to try and help stop the spread of the virus. Republicans will never accept that, though. Republicans are going to be like, frick that, dude. If you were the absolute dictator of the world, what would be the first order you would implement? Absolute dictator? We would dissolve public school right away. Public school would be dissolved and all the teachers would be out of jobs. We would have a totally different educational system entirely. the educational system, we would complete. I think it's already going through a transformation, believe it or not. Funny thing is, I think that coronavirus is going to change the way we're educated forever. I think people are learning right now that they're capable of learning everything they need to know from home. Where are we going to place this? All right, right here. Got to look around for those. You got to look around for those wind tunnels to make sure you're not putting it over there. I would completely change the public school system. We would get rid of so much of it. It would just be math, English, and technology. Mostly just those three things. And then we will have a class on how to become a millionaire. We would have a class on becoming a millionaire. And we would have a class on running businesses and starting businesses. And that would be it. You would not be in class very long. You would get out of school very quickly so that you can go work on your business. You can work on your dad's businesses, your mom's business, whatever it is. But if you're not running a business, you need to start running a business. So that would be a very large change in the educational system. That would definitely be like a top priority. I think education today is just ridiculous. Uh-oh. What are we doing, guys, with all these Charybdis? Opinion on Slinger Burst with Greatsword. I haven't noticed you using it. Well, I'm not the best with the Greatsword. And I suppose I could use it on a case. Oh, man. I can tell that this is not easy to get to. Oh, no. Boop. I'm out of here. Somebody else can deal with him when he goes into his crazy mode. What is your timeline for when life begins? Conception, fertilization, birth? Life begins when your dad creates your sperm cell in his nutsack. No, I'm just kidding. I think that the Catholics had a really good definition, and it's when you have the zygote cell or whatever, is where you have all the genetics determined for what the baby's going to be, and it just starts to replicate into a new person. So that's what the Catholics like to define it as. For a while, I resisted that idea after I left Catholicism, but now I'm older and I'm like, that kind of makes the most sense, because at that point you have everything you need to develop into another human being. Where would the doctor and nurses come from? No flash against the tornado? I agree with you about education, says Albert. How about no and all you stay poor and leave us rich? What? If everyone is running a business and a millionaire, who's working for those businesses? China will hire only Chinese children to do the working. I'm just joking. My top priority will be, it's funny that you asked the question, Soliferex, because it almost sounds like you believe that school should be for everyone to become someone else's like wage slave. It's almost like you're admitting that I'm right. You know what I mean? Well, if we all went to school to start businesses, who would the wage slaves be? The point is, your children should not be the wage slaves. That's the point. Your children should be actually financially well educated and capable of starting their own businesses and competing. Maybe the answer to your question is, the people who don't want to own a business would be the employees. But I think most people are not even made aware of the fact that they can be business owners and that they can be asset developers rather than just some other guy's employee building some other guy's asset. Is sperm stored in the ball sack? I thought that's where pee is. City says, well, I have a master's degree in teaching and haven't worked as a teacher for 6 years because I couldn't put up with what I was told to teach, working for a major logistics US-based company now. Nice. Ren says, that's probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard so far. Why make an app to detect corona when they can spend their time on developing a vaccine? You could do both. Chad says, why does that make the most sense? Because you concluded so? Pardon me asking thought-provoking opposing questions. Hey, mister, where do babies come from? Well, the fireman puts his hose into the lady's hoo-ha, and then he pees milk into her hoo-ha, and this is where babies come from. What's your opinion on the transgender movement? This is actually like the third time you guys have brought this up, the whole issue of transgenderism. I think that if you were to just like beat up on transgender people, this would not solve anything. So basically you're either falling into the belief that people with transgenderism... Wait, has he still not cast... Oh my god, he still hasn't cast it. Oh shoot, he's coming over to me. you either believe that it's like body dysmorphia, dysmorphism, whatever it's called, or you believe that they're totally legit a different gender. I think the vast majority of people, even though they're not allowed to say so, they don't actually believe that a guy who wants to be a girl is a girl. They probably believe it's body dysmorphia. But my opinion is that if you're of that belief, it's really not going to help anyone or anybody to go after them and be like, oh, well, you're a screw up. Oh, well, you're not who you claim you are. I think that you do actually have to be. Oh, no. Am I in trouble? I might be in trouble here. Hold on. What? I don't have it on my... Oh, I'm dead. I don't have it on my item loadout. You guys have asked the gender thing multiple times. Here's my... Okay, if you want my, like, core belief on the issue, I believe that in order to be a woman, you have to be born with a woman's physical brain. And you have to be born with the actual woman's body, a uterus. And then the question becomes, do I believe that gender is a construct? I suppose it is in a way, but I believe that the construct has come about through natural realizations, kind of like what I was talking about with having to have children or ceasing to exist. Okay, so could you have a woman who plays the role of a man? Yeah, absolutely. Could you have a man who plays the role of a woman? Sure. But you can't have children, right? Unless you have a man and woman having sex with each other and giving birth to a child. So with the whole transgender movement, I think it makes about as much sense if I was a white dude and then I came out and said I identify as black. And I think that a lot of people understand this very easily, why that wouldn't be acceptable. But if I was a male and I came out and said I'm a woman, they would be like, oh man, you're totally a woman. You can't be black, but you can definitely be a woman. So people understand that there's kind of like, I don't know, maybe I'm like behind the times. Are you allowed to say that you're black now? I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. So maybe that's a new thing now. I wouldn't even know. But I think the majority of people understand why that doesn't necessarily work. But with all the transgender stuff, it's so weird. It's still so heavily pushed by Hollywood, by the left, by, I don't know who else pushes it. Some politicians, I suppose, push it, but I already said the left. It's a weird thing, isn't it? It's a very weird thing. I don't feel negative toward people who are transgender. Let me put it that way. I don't feel negative toward them. I think you could be a guy playing the role of a woman your whole life. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I don't agree with cutting your junk off. I don't agree with that. I believe that is mutilation, and I also believe that's you falling out of the gene pool. James says, if you're not a black person, you can't say you are black. Okay, so that one's still protected. Bro, why so racist? Geralt says, why are there 4 genders? Would you label yourself politically libertarian? No, I'm a conservative. I'm so tired of libertarians. Libertarians are closeted conservatives. That's what they are. Libertarians are low beta conservatives. That's what they are. Low energy beta male conservatives. They're afraid to say that they're conservative. They know that conservatives is a term that everyone beats up on very heavily. They're still shy about calling themselves conservative because they don't want to be hated on by their liberal progressive friends. You're a conservative. You're not a libertarian. I'm a conservative. Most of you are conservatives. I don't actually believe in the libertarians are okay. There's overlapping beliefs between the libertarians and the conservatives, but I'm a conservative. I think you're a bit behind the times. What do you think of kids? What you do if your kid says they are trans? I would smack them, and then I would tell them, if you are trans, I'm going to have to honor kill you. No, I'm just kidding, obviously. That's an interesting question. Maybe I would just ignore them and be like, okay, tell me how you really feel, Felicia. I don't know. I think that's probably, knowing myself, what I would probably do is 100% ignore them. So if they came out and said, Dad, I'm a girl, I'd be like, okay, I'd 100% ignore it. And they could go around and dress as a girl and all this stuff. They would not get any attention. Because I think that actually a lot of the times what drives behavior is attention. And so I wouldn't want to think that my negative attention would cause them to develop a personality around negative attention. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think that some people develop their whole identity around being victimized, or they develop an entire identity around the abuse they received from their parent. So knowing this, I just probably would not respond very much at all. I'd be like, all right. And I know that my child would have their own life experience and their own decisions to make, because I'm not my child. My child is my child. I would tell them to have 3 kids still. So that would still be, I'd be like, that is the law. You have 3 kids. Cito says, if Stephen Curry had a sex change and then started playing in the WNBA, it'd just be a bunch of women getting 3-pointed from half court. Chad says, slap the shit out of that kid. Yeah, I was just joking with that. Raymond says, what really sucks is that people can't accept that other people's wishes. I think that most people are scared to change because it can be scary to change, but I'm okay with whatever somebody wants to be. Yeah, you know, the problem with wanting anything, so this is actually a really interesting subject called kind of like moral subjectivism. Anything goes. Her truth, his truth. She's living her truth. He's living his truth. Anything goes. I don't believe in that. I don't believe that you can do literally anything and it's healthy. For example, let's say living your truth involved eating 400 cookies a year. That's an obscure number. Let's say a whole box of cookies a day. There we go. There's a number that makes sense. So let's say living your truth means drinking 6 beers and a box of cookies a day. It's just really unhealthy, and then eventually you'll be obese and you'll get coronavirus and die early, right? So that's what we're finding out. Coronavirus kills you if you're obese, which is sad because a lot of Americans are obese, right? So not looking good. But anyways, as a parent, should you then be telling your child not to be a little fatty? And the craziest thing is, you're not even supposed to do that anymore. That's the whole body fat acceptance thing, right? You're not even supposed to tell them not to be fat anymore. And it's like, what are you talking about? There's clearly evidence that being overweight is bad for you. You don't want to be overweight. And, you know, if you're overweight, you're overweight. And nobody has to, like, beat up on you for it. You don't have to, but you shouldn't feel like it's just normal and okay. You should make it a goal to be healthy. And your parents supposed to tell you, hey, by the way, being fat's bad. You're going to get fat and obese and die from coronavirus, okay? So your parents supposed to tell you that. And that's how I feel about a lot of issues. A lot of people are like, hey, you know, if it doesn't affect me, it doesn't matter. It's like, no, come on, man. Be honest. Being fat's not healthy. And, you know, so I feel like, again, it's this issue of honesty. People in 2020 are very, very scared of being judged for being judgmental. And I don't know what causes it. I kind of feel like everyone's a huge pussy. It's kind of like that. You care so much about people perceiving you as judgmental, but it's like, we're not living in a reality where everything goes. We're still not in that reality. It's no such thing. There never was. It was never his truth, her truth, you know, living your truth. This never existed. Some things are better than other things. You should be able to judge people. So, like, for example, if you were a girl in good health, you're just enormously more attractive than if you're a girl in bad health. That's the truth. You could lie and say, oh, well, I don't judge a girl for eating too much. It's like, you do, though. You do, and you just claim that you don't. You're lying, actually. I don't know, maybe chubby chasers. That's his own interesting subject. Let's say the majority of men do judge, though. Oh, darn. And we basically just lie to each other to be politically correct. It's that issue of political correctness. We say, oh, it doesn't matter to me. You can be huge. Yeah, man, I support everyone. Uh-oh, let's tackle. So we tackled, and then we rolled out of our TCS. We ain't obese. We thick. It affects you when you a fatty is next to you on the airplane. Yeah, well, at least we can joke about that subject. But let's say, you know, move on to other lifestyles. There's many lifestyles to judge. And it's like, what we're trying to say is that all lifestyles are equal. They're just not, dude. Some lifestyles are clearly more healthy. For example, the one I'm talking about, having one where you consider having children a part of a healthy lifestyle. If you don't have children, you're not living a healthy life. Even though it's a sort of lifestyle where it's intergenerational, you know, you're thinking about what happens in the next generation rather than just your own physical body. is still the truth. And we talked about it a lot already. We already explained why I have those beliefs. It's from actually thinking about it quite a lot. Oh, God damn it. I'm going to go ahead and grab his attention. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, he's not casting Charybdis now. Best thing you learn post-high school, most often no one's opinion means shit. It's embarrassing to think people lead entire lives, entire existences in an attempt to appease it. Felicia. Tell me how you feel, Felicia. Thank you so much, City. Children can make or break a healthy lifestyle, just depends on what's going on. Procreation is the premise of existence. Actually, that is correct. That is, again, that's the realization I made as well. If you are not procreating, what does all your money in the world matter? None of it matters. You're like, oh yeah, me and my wife, we both work, it's good. It's like, what are you talking about? You have no kids. Oh, but I have a doggy. It's like, okay. It's like, if you believe in not existing, that's okay, I guess. Kids keep you obese if you always eat them. That is unhealthy. Trump should just lift the travel ban so all the fatties have to work out or die. Oh, you know, actually it's kind of annoying. One of the things that has happened recently in the news is, so obviously I'm not a big fan of, hold on. I'm not a big fan of identity politics and that kind of stuff. But we found out that people who are living, hold on, let me rephrase it. Minorities are disproportionately affected by coronavirus, and they always start out by explaining the reason for this is because they have more underlying conditions. Basically, they're fat, right? And we all kind of know this, right? Like maybe you really like good food. I like good food, right? I'm not in good shape anymore. I'd say I'm a little on the chubby side at this point in my life, especially because I play games with you guys all day. I used to be real thin. So it's definitely a change for me. But I play games every day now. I get it. But anyways, they always start out by saying we're disproportionately affected. We have a lot of underlying health conditions. But then they blame it on like poverty. And it's like, this is the part that I don't understand. It's like poverty used to meant that you were thin. Poverty used to mean that you're thin. And what is their argument? Oh, it's racist that we die so much from coronavirus. It's like, well, okay, so, but if you're obese, that means you're eating good, right? It means you're eating a lot. And I remember being poor in college, and there was still so much. Actually, what I remember from being poor in college is that when you're really actually quite poor, like truly poor, you're living off of the same $200 for like a whole month, right? When you're really poor, you swap over to eating like cabbage and potatoes. And guess what? Cabbage and potatoes are really healthy. Cabbage and potatoes is not that bad for you. Cabbage, potatoes, and chicken thigh. Those were like the core parts of our meal. Cabbage, chicken thigh, and potato. And we had eggs, and we had onions and carrots. Those were like really affordable. So that's what it meant to be poor. And so they're saying like, well, they're obese because they're poor. And it's like, maybe not. Maybe they're obese because they eat food that makes them fat. Like, can you just be, it's another one of those issues where it's like, please, I'm not stupid. Please just be honest. I know what it's like to be poor myself. I know what it's like to be really poor, right? So the whole, I spent most of my life without my parents. I left home when I was 17. Never talked to them again. Basically, semi-homeless most of the time, right? Barely had any money. Really hard struggle all the time. And then my wife and I getting through college was an incredible financial struggle. Constantly we were wondering, are we going to have to drop out in order to earn some money to provide for ourselves for our cost of living while we're in school? So it's like we found out when you're actually really poor, you've got to make ends meet with like cabbage and potatoes. Because you can buy like 10... Am I going to die? Oh, okay, he still hit me. Interesting. So for once, I didn't try to roll that move. I actually just tried to run away from it. Anyways, so yeah, so you understand my opinion here. My opinion here is you can actually eat very healthy while you're poor. And in fact, your best options, your cheapest options is like a 10-pound bag of potatoes. Those don't make you super fat. What makes you fat is butter. Butter makes you fat, and candy. Butter, fat, candy. What else makes you fat? I'm dead. Oh, I'm still alive. Damn, I love Divine Blessing Secret. It's so good. Butter, you know, fried fat from whatever fried food you're eating. Candy, chocolate, soda. Just a few things make you really fat, okay? And I love fried food myself. I love it. But I know it's super fattening. And you're going to say like, oh, well, the problem is you're too poor. Maybe not. Maybe they actually have enough money to buy really unhealthy food. When you're really, really poor, you realize you can't afford Taco Bell. You can't afford McDonald's. It's actually too expensive to eat McDonald's. You pay like what, $1.25 for one hamburger, which is a thin slice of meat, and then 2 slices of bread. It's not filling at all. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's very annoying because I could hear, I'm listening to like CNN, CBS, NBC, ABC, all the major news networks, listening to the way that they're phrasing this already, and they're setting the language up for we're going to need a bonus stimulus. That's what the language is. We've been left behind, and our politicians are going to have to give us some extra money. That's the language that they're using. It's like, what are you talking about, man? You get fat from eating good. You don't get fat from being too poor. You're obese because you're eating good, man. You're eating a lot. It's so annoying to hear. It affects us disproportionately. Yeah, because you're eating too much. Chubby cheeks. Slow down. I have no choice but to eat all of this dessert. It's like, what are you talking about? So, and it gets us all, by the way. We all get fat. Overweightedness is like one of the biggest health problems in first world countries. Everyone gets chubby because the food's so cheap. It's easy to buy food. Like the girl who eats live seafood in mukbangs. What? It scares me. Sugar is the most fattening thing. Yeah, well, often, how do you eat sugar? You don't just grab a spoonful of sugar and eat it, right? What you do is you eat it with frosting. What is frosting? Frosting is just fat. How about chocolate? What is chocolate? Did you guys know chocolate's just a stick of butter with cocoa powder and sugar in it? That's chocolate. So when you're eating chocolate, you're eating a stick of butter, okay? That's chocolate, for those of you who didn't know. So very often, sugar already is very fattening because of the dense number of calories you consume, but also all the fat you eat with it is almost always paired with a form of fat. So yeah, it's like the two things that you really shouldn't be having too much of. What do you think about fasting then? Like Islamic teaching where you fast for a whole month. There's nothing wrong with fasting. You know, when it comes to being healthy, I think that we figured it out a long time ago. You just need to eat rich, healthy foods like lean protein and maybe like a fatty fruit, fatty vegetable or whatever. Maybe some complex. All the information for being healthy is out there. We all know that healthy food is the food that hasn't been overly processed, right? So you get a chunk of chicken and a chunk of maybe like some rice. You get a scoop full of broccoli, and you don't cover it in salt, you don't cover it in sugar, and then you eat it. And then you're healthy. and you make sure that the amount of calories you eat is beneath the amount you should eat in order to lose weight. So we all know how to eat healthy, we just don't want to. We're like, man, wouldn't it be nice if we just went to Pasta House right now and have that cheesy ass lasagna, and then we'll take the bread and we'll dip it in the cheese, and then we'll weigh 1,000 pounds together. It'd be great. Actually, my wife's really thin. I don't know how she does it. She just stays thin all the time. Well, I guess I do know how she does it. My wife, it's like she can't eat. It's like it's hard for her, which I'll never understand that, because I don't know. I'm not like that. For me, I'm always like, all right, I gotta control how much I eat so that I don't eat too much. So I'm always trying to be a little healthier and eat a little less. But she's like, oh, I can't eat. It's gross, man. It's lucky. I wish, you know, I'm sure a lot of people wish they were that way. She doesn't even try. She's just skinny because she can't eat food. It just comes to her naturally, I guess. Do you go to the gym? I most certainly do not go to the gym. I play Monster Hunter and I open up Pokemon cards. That's what I do. Oh man, I'm in trouble. Alpha Sierra Hotel is also very misleading. One to write about how greedy and deceptive the whole nutrition and health industry is. Well, you know, the fact that it's an industry right away tells you everything you know. Anytime something's an industry, what it means is it's a vehicle for profit, where they're going to soak you like, you know, you're going to be a battery of profit for them. They're going to plug you in and take all your money away. Oh, snap. What the hell? But I do believe in eating unprocessed foods, simple protein like chicken breast and just like a cup full of broccoli. You're never really going to go wrong with that, in my opinion. You know what I mean? You're never really going to go wrong for eating a cup full of broccoli and a chicken breast. It's really simple. God damn it. What is my weight in real life? I'm 6 foot tall and I weigh 250. So do the math. Oh, let's run over here. Time Pokemon go to the Pokemon go to the polls. Cringe. This guy Rollney says, on the note of gamer going to gym, you should watch Path of Exile streamer Matt Thill. What? GC's fingers are ripped. I got the strongest fingers in the West. Yeah, I try to be healthier. I really do. It's actually kind of. It used to be easy when I worked for Coca-Cola back when I was 25. That would have been 6 years ago. I was super healthy because my job involved it was physical labor, and I just, I was moving pallets of soda that weighed like 800 pounds. You'd move it around with the forklift, and you work like 14 hours a day. Actually, I don't think it was good for my knees. I think it might have been bad for my knees, but yeah, I was totally fit back then. You were just thin. That was it. You could eat anything you wanted. It didn't matter because the work was so intensive. Now I'm older and I'm like, all right, what did I eat for lunch? You know what I mean? Like, and the amount of sedentary lifestyle I have is probably understated. First, I will like stream. Well, look, we've streamed for almost 3 hours. I haven't moved my ass once. And then when we're done here, I'm gonna go to bed. I have the most sedentary lifestyle possible. I'm probably gonna die from whatever health complications comes from sitting too much, which apparently there's a lot of them. Apparently, you're not supposed to sit for longer than 30 minutes, so I'm not. I'm probably going to be in trouble. Are you a software developer? I went to school to be one. I learned everything my wife learned. We took the same courses, same exact curriculum. We got to make out in between classes. So, but she got the job to be a software engineer, and I ended up becoming a YouTuber. So I was like, I think I could be a YouTuber. So I never became like a. She's a senior software engineer now, so she's doing the real stuff, and I haven't touched a software engineering uh, what do they call that? A something environment in a long time. Developer environment? No, that's not what it's called. He's obese, not overweight. 250, all finger muscle. Wait, is he not 250? How do I have baby while being the big gay? You're going to have to find a girl and pump her. Static Zero says, is there space in the session? GE, you need to quit sitting down, bro. You should read and take this serious. Yeah, I agree. Well, my wife and I, we went on a nice walk today, but it just doesn't feel like enough, man. It's just the nature of the work I do here when I'm streaming. It's a sitting job. When I'm editing, it's a sitting job. When I'm doing research, it's a sitting job. When I'm doing a commentary, it's a sitting job. When I live stream the card channel, it's a sitting job. So all of my work is done sitting at a computer. So when I'm not on the computer, I try to go for a walk. I try to do a little bit of exercise. Ultimately, what would happen, or what would help, is right now I live in a tiny, tiny condo, and there's not really any room for any exercise equipment. One day, my wife and I will move to a hopefully slightly bigger home, and I need to get a treadmill, and I think that will help a lot because then I can jump off the computer, jump onto the treadmill. That's what I think I'd like to see. Stand-up desk. Sorry, I've tried stand-up desk. I've tried doing that kind of stuff. When you're doing a highly detailed job like editing or writing, it just does not come out of you the same way when you're standing. That's the truth. If I was doing work on a computer that did not require a lot of thinking, standing desk would probably be okay. But when you're doing work that requires a lot of intensive thinking, it's just not going to happen. Try to find someone who can motivate you into getting into good shape. Yeah, I need to get into good shape. We need Monster Hunter VR, easy standing desk, snowing in Chicago. Let me check. What? Does your wife have problems with how often long you play games? Sort of. She gets lonely. She definitely gets lonely. Especially back when I used to just put in every single waking hour of my day into this job. These days, what I do is I try to give her like more time with me where we hang out, we'll go for a walk together. I try to make it productive and enjoyable. And you might have noticed that there's kind of a slowdown on the content that I pump out, and that's because I'm trying to find like an appropriate work-life balance. and still earn enough money to pay off my goddamn student debts, right? And help parents and all that other stuff, and move into a bigger house where I might have a treadmill. So all that's involved, and I'm a workaholic. If she didn't exist, if I wasn't married, I promise you, I would work a straight 16 hours every day, and I would not blink an eye about it. It's easy because I'm passionate about it, and I'm passionate about being wealthy someday. So it's very easy for me to do that. But there was actually a point, it was probably like 3 months ago, where it felt like maybe the amount of work I was doing was making it so she didn't see me at all, and that was actually like a relationship problem. So I had to stop doing that and actually spend time with her. Yeah, we talked about all that stuff. Pretty bad actually. So just found your channel, loving the game. I can finally play, and your guys are the best. Thank you very much, Joel. Electronic Desk. Why don't you jog on the spot whilst playing the game? It's easier said than done, Demi. $300. Mine is automatic. It's snowing. Go get in bed with your wife. God damn, didn't even think of that. I know, she sleeps every night. She sleeps without me because I stay up all night and work. And the reason why we do this schedule is because I get much of my work is done while she is asleep. Because basically she's not able to interrupt my work at night. So I almost like adapted to working at night because I get a better, purer form of work done at night. How much money do you get from YouTubing? It depends how much you're going to donate. Salute says, is YouTube your only job? YouTube is my only job. I have this channel and I have my Pokemon card channel. If you've never been to my Pokemon card channel, there's a link to it in the description of this live stream. Adion says, are you secretly the guy who makes the NPC University meme animations as your side channel on YouTube? I swear you have the same voice. Nope, no idea who you're talking about. Improper question, don't ask people their income. I think I would be paid actually significantly more if I was a software engineer, but I'm much happier doing this. And actually, the card channel kind of helps too. I make a little money on the side on the card channel. It's like my side hustle. Sanford says, wanted to ask you yesterday, the oil industry decreased in value right now, right? Yeah, so the oil industry was having a feud and the economy fell because of the coronavirus. So the oil companies really, their stock values plummeted, and I bought in when it was all the way at the bottom right now. And now I just get to see if the stock market goes into a recession or even a depression, which would be scary. But we get to see what happens next with the stock market. Hopefully, there is a recovery. I mean, the news channels are all doom and gloom. And a part of the reason for that, I think, is because they want the economy to do bad, because I think it would. Honestly, I think most news networks are liberal, and I don't think the liberals actually want to see the economy recover for any reason. I think they want to see it actually kind of implode and do really terribly. Anyways, we'll have to see if the economy does very poorly in the next few months because of all of the joblessness, or if we will see a quick recovery after people get tired of being quarantined all the time. I think people are going to get bored of being quarantined. I think that'll happen. And a lot of it comes down to how many people are actually dying to the coronavirus, the real death rate, which is really hard to calculate right now. If a bunch of young people find out, okay, I'm not fat and I'm young, I'm going to go out and go to work and buy stuff. I think there's a fair chance that the economy does see itself starting to bounce back a little bit. What we really need, though, are solutions to the coronavirus. We need new businesses to emerge that allow you to go shopping for food and buy restaurant food that's definitely decontaminated. There's all kinds of business solutions we need right now, and you should keep your eyes open for that if you're thinking about investing. How goes your merchandise idea? Yeah, I downloaded Adobe Illustrator because apparently if you're going to make like a graphic t-shirt, you have to have Adobe Illustrator. So I have Adobe Illustrator, and that's as far as I got. I've been thinking about what kind of t-shirt I want. I think I would like maybe like a black polo shirt, and then the red black spiral, kind of like where a pocket would be, like on the breast of your shirt, and a pocket on the opposite side, something like that. Something real small, actually, for the icon. I don't want the icon to be like huge or anything like that. I just want it to look real small and professional. Hi, TGE, and now I caught your late night stream, and I want to buy packs from you on Pokemon stream again. Right, maybe I should do a Pokemon stream right now. You guys want to do Pokemans? This guy Roll Needs says you probably get better pay. You probably get better pay working as a software engineer rather than making YouTube videos. That's actually, I'm pretty sure that's probably true. Software engineers get paid well. Sadly, I can never be a Chad. I main the glaive. Oh, I'm sorry, edgy boy. At this point, what's bad for America is good for Democrats. Yeah, I kind of feel that way. Cameron says, can I see your bolt shop build? I might still have it. Let's see. Why didn't you try and get a real boring classic job? Well, because I wanted to see if I could succeed on YouTube, and being a YouTuber is a very cool job. Also, I feel like I do a good job because I enjoy talking a lot. So this being somebody who talks a lot, this is a good job for me because I can sit here and just talk and talk and talk and talk. All right, so this is what I'm running. You could screenshot this. You can rewind the stream and screenshot this. And here is the awakened abilities and the mods. Hope that helps. Do you have any investment books you'd recommend for beginners? Gosh, Warren Buffett wrote a number of investment books that are outstanding because it's not just that he talks about his philosophy for buying stock. Like Warren Buffett really, he made. God, I could go on this subject for a long time, but we're at 3 hours and I'm trying to wrap up. Warren Buffett's really good. Anything by Warren Buffett's really enjoyable. I'm trying to remember. It was a long time ago. Okay, so this was 6 years ago. The problem with trying to name the finance books is that they all had really boring names. Okay, so none of the books were really excitingly named. But if you go look up like the top books in finances, there will certainly be a list. I recommend to just go read those. Once people start to get sick and tired of this quarantine, and my chat section just updated, they will start going out and the economy will go out. Chat says, he likely clears $85, low of 60. Best you can do is educate a guess. If you really need to know, apply $1.80 gross average per 1,000 views. He roughly earns to monthly views. Guess his donations. Matthew says, Gameconomist, it was fun playing with you and I hope you do Sophagiva soon, but I'm going to bed. Good night, Matthew. Quarantine the high risk, open the country. Would you get a real job if you could play games and collect cards for a plenty healthy income? No, I prefer this. This is a very cool job. Edgy says, I'm a degenerate. I put ranch on all my McDonald's food. Are you a simple man? Just says, wait, your supermarkets don't deliver? I think they do. I'm just saying that what I would prefer is for somebody to deliver my food in a hazmat suit and then they decontaminate it right in front of me. That would be cool. Is recoil suppressor not needed? Do you think that Archtemper Namiel will have new moves? Buffett is an interesting guy. All this talk of eating sugar is my stomach sick. I think I'll eat a bowl of nasty gooey oatmeal. Justin Loxoffy, what would be a good longsword or light bowgun set to start fighting him? Any of them. Chaz says Warren Buffett is a wonderful money mentor via book. Damn good stream, says Jared. Thank you, Jared. Monster Hunter says, you're a cool person because you're unique and you have a good job. I'm reading the Boogleheads guide and have a Warren Buffett book on hold. Yeah, actually, not just Warren Buffett and investing in stock, but you should learn a little bit about investment in real estate because it will help you understand both how to think about investing in real estate, but also it will help you understand why real estate has gone up in cost so much over time, which is really annoying. What's your 2 cents on Trump stopping the funding of the World Health Organization? I think that it was totally legitimate. So, you know what's funny? All the outrage. There's so much outrage from everyone who doesn't want him to defund it. But it's like, duh, of course they don't want him to defund it. How much were, in 2017, we gave the World Health Organization $400 million. And America by itself paid 22% of all the money that gets sent to that organization. So if Donald Trump is questioning whether or not the head of the organization is just maybe won over by the Chinese Communist Party, maybe he's playing on their team, maybe they're paying him money to say nice things for them. If he wants to investigate that before sending 400 million United States tax dollars over to the World Health Organization, which we mostly fund, I'm totally down for that. It doesn't matter if Donald Trump did it. It wouldn't have mattered to me if Obama did it. It's totally legitimate. I hate the idea that there's this group that is probably filled with people who are communists. There's probably plenty of people in that group who hate America, are totally indifferent to America, but they're totally okay taking $400 million from America. That's so ridiculous. So I'm totally okay with it. On the other hand, I can see how Democrats probably interpret it as Donald Trump trying to deflect from the blame that they would like for him to have for the spread of the virus. So basically, the Democrats point at Donald Trump and say, well, it's your fault that the virus is spreading. And then Donald Trump is pointing at the World Health Organization saying, no, it's their fault that the virus spread all over the world. So that's what he's doing. That's his political move. But just speaking financially, totally okay with it. He didn't say that we're going to indefinitely stop supporting them, by the way. All he said is that we're going to stop funding them until there's been an investigation. I don't know what he means by an investigation. Maybe what he wants to find out is if, again, maybe the head of the organization's playing for China, playing on their team. So it's funny because they're so mad and they're so ravenous in the response to his choice to do that. But it's like, duh, they want the money. It's so much money. When you're just receiving donations from somebody else and they say, hey, I guess I'll stop doing that for now, of course you're going to get super angry and ravenous and bitter about it, because you're just taking the money. Anyways, smart move. He makes the moves other POS leaders won't. Forget politics. Let's kill monsters. Which is best, like Bogan for sticky ammo, the Furious Rajang, or Safi Aquashot? Furious Rajang is. Anish got banned before GE could answer his question. I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know who Anish is. Dirty Monty says, frick, who, TGE, are you looking forward to Master Cove? Somewhat. God save Trump. Anish was too wacky not to be a troll. Anish come back with a new count. Joshua says, who is bad? They are backing up China. They chose China over Taiwan. Oh, right. So the World Health Organization won't allow a representative from Taiwan in. That's another indicator that they're playing for China's team, because China's trying to suppress Taiwan because China wants to own Taiwan. They believe Taiwan is theirs, which I think technically it is, right? I don't know. But that doesn't mean, why shouldn't you have a representative from Taiwan right now? Anyways, I miss Anish. I have no clue what you guys are talking about. Anyways, I want to go ahead and wrap up here. We're 3 hours in. Thank you all for listening to our fun chat time. And maybe we will have another chat time soon. I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you, everyone, by the way, for the generous donations. I'll see you guys next time.